pleasure and honor to be with you today with an eminent speaker today to talk about a very important topics, presbyopia management. That is very important for all ophthalmologists, but not only for refractive and cataract surgeon. And we are facing all the days with in our life practice. Today we are having really an eminent speaker, and proud to have all of them with us. And I will start with introducing them in alphabetical manner. The first speaker with us, Professor Dr. Ahmed Assa, is a professor of ophthalmology in Shams, Cairo University, Egypt, phaco-refractive consultant, Al Wataniya Eye Hospital, Cairo, Egypt. Good evening, Dr. Ahmed. You can say hello because so people to know you. So everyone, if there is you want to add anything, Dr. Ahmed, if I missed something.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm glad to be here, and I'm expecting a very exciting webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for accepting our invitation. Also, our dear friends and Dr. Arthur Cummings, and we are knowing him for now several times. He is with us. He's a well-known figure in cornea and refractive surgeon. He's a consultant ophthalmologist in Wellington Eye Clinic, Dublin, Ireland. Good evening, Dr. Arthur Cummings.
Hi, thank you very much. Hello to everyone. I'm looking very forward to a nice discussion this evening. Thank you.
Thanks for accepting our invitation, also, Doctor. We have also Professor Dr. Mazen Sinjab. He's a phaco-refractive consultant, Medcare Hospital and Center, Dubai, UAE. And he is with me. We will moderate this session. Good evening, Dr. Mazen.
Good evening, Dr. Muhammad. It's an honor for me to be co-moderator with you.
You are the boss. You are the moderator. I am the co. You are my boss. Also, we are having my friend, also Dr. Muhammad Imad Alilo. He's a consultant ophthalmologist in Medcare Hospital, Sharjah, UAE. He's also well known as a refractive cornea and cataract surgeon. Dr. Imad, good evening. You are here, Dr. Imad.
Dr. Muhammad, it's an honor and a pleasure to be with you tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Imad. Also, my dear friends and brothers, we are sharing all the times our experience. I'm talking to all the times my dear friend, Dr. Osama Jalidi. He's a consultant ophthalmologist in Morfield Eye Hospital, Dubai, UAE. Good evening, my brothers and friend, Dr. Osama, and have a nice trip and also vacation in Farfakhan. We cannot hear you, Osama. Your voice is a little bit. No, you are not. We are not listening to. We are not hearing you.
It's my pleasure to join you all for this nice, interesting evening, and looking forward for the nice discussion.
Thank you, Osama. We are also honored to have and one of the eminent speakers worldwide. Also, is Professor Dr. Rohit Shetty. He's a consultant cornea and refractive surgery, vice chairman in Narayana Netherlands, Bangalore, clinical and translation scientist, laboratories faculty, Department of Ophthalmology, Maastricht University. Good evening, Dr. Rohit.
Hi.
Okay, thank you. If there is anything, if I pronounce something because it's sometimes difficult, please correct me. It's okay. Also, it's my pleasure also to introduce my dear friends and brother, Dr. Safwan Al-Bayati. Also, he's a consultant ophthalmologist, phaco-refractive retina surgeon, founder and medical director of New Vision Eye Center, Dubai, UAE. Also, he's a well-known figure, and he is one of the faculties that he supports me in preparing for this meeting. Thank you, Dr. Safwan. Good evening. You are mute, Dr. Safwan. Can you please unmute yourself so they can hear you?
Yes, Dr. Muhammad, good evening. So great thanks to you. And it was my honor to participate with my colleagues here in this important meeting and webinar meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Safwan. Also, it's also my pleasure also to introduce Dr. Samuel Nibel. He's an MD and staff physician, department chair, anterior segment cornea refractive disorders in Eye Institute at Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi, UAE. Dr. Samuel, thank you and good evening.
Yes, I'm really honored to be here, and looking at the fellow colleagues, I'm expecting to learn quite a lot this evening. Thank you.
Thanks for you also, Dr. And you are going to be our first presenters. So I would like to introduce you to give your presentation. It is about what is the ideal drugs and we need for management of, You are going to talk about the real dry eye disease in, I think, in the Gulf and our area. Is that right, Dr.?
Yes, should I share my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is everyone hearing me okay before I begin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So it is dry eye in the Gulf, sorry, dry eye in the Gulf, regional insight with global implications. Yes.
Yeah, what I'm going to talk about is our observations here on dry eye and the realization I had that we, in fact, have a lot to teach the world. And this will be about that. I'm going to make no mistakes that I'm the warm-up show for tonight. And so I'm going to try to keep our minds relaxed and not show a lot of number slides and studies, so everyone can just relax and enjoy my presentation, and that'll leave our energy and our focus for the presbyopia discussion that follows. So we live in a beautiful country. The countryside is beautiful. Our cities are beautiful. And yet we all understand that, that there are challenges to where we live. The obvious ones are the very hot temperatures, the very high humidity. And when you put these two together, it makes for a very, very challenging index. Just take a moment to look at the map of the globe here, and you'll see where we live is quite unusual compared to the rest of the world. You can mix this in with our ultraviolet load that we have being right at the equator. We have many hours of internet use, a lot of professionals, a lot of people with iPads and phones and TVs. And we also spend many hours on the telephone. We have, believe it or not, in this list of over 100 countries, I'm only showing the top 50 here, we're actually number one, staring at our phones and looking at our phones. It's not very uncommon for patients to come in with more than one phone even. So it's really no surprise when we look at just a very quick study of our patients, when you can see the degree of staining where everything above the red line is abnormal. And when we look at the tear breakup time, where everything under this line is abnormal, that we really have a problem. And I'm moving so quick on purpose just to say the obvious. I'm not trying to take a long time with this, but we are in an extremely difficult situation. The same with inflammatory testing, a very high percent. And so what I'd like to do, I want to skip all the science and numbers and studies. Let's all stand on the shoulders of the fact that we know this, and let you see some insights I've had about why this is true. Because if we understand why it's true, we can really start looking at it from a way that's unique to our problem. And I think too often we adopt our solutions to things that are already in the textbook and things that describe problems in other areas of the world. So I want to build a model with you over the next 5 minutes on my thoughts. So I think of dry eye as having 3 main components: those coming from outdoor, those coming from indoor, and those coming from the makeup of our people. What's so about their genetics, about many patients that we see here. So if we look at the outdoor stressors, we've already covered the high heat index. We have a lot of dust and particles in the air. We've already seen the slide on high ultraviolet exposure. I'm not going to argue the case very strongly that our close proximity to salt water plays a role, but I do think, I'm just going to say that I do think it makes a difference. Being near so much salt water and seeing the corrosion that it does, makes me wonder about the extra challenges that we have where we live. I've seen, for example, on this case for my bass guitar, the metal go in just 1 year from being new to looking like this. And I've had the same with bicycles. So I'm going to pose this to the audience because I can't think of a way to study it further or more how to get a handle on it. But if anyone has ideas on this, please talk to me afterwards, because it's just a suspicion at this point, but I'm trying to go further. When it comes to our constitutional problems, we know we have a lot of allergy here. We know we have a lot of diabetes. I believe we're the 13th country in the world with the prevalence of diabetes. Refractive surgery is common, as is contact lens wear, especially those over-the-counter tinted ones that cannot be a very good fit for the patient. And meibomian gland disease is very, very common. We know that whether it's a constitutional problem, that is to say, whether it's inherent in our patients or comes as a result of other things, I'm not quite sure. And so I'm not going to fight for this to be on this list, but I'm leaving it here for now. Let's look at our indoor challenges. We have the most cell phone use, computers, smartphones, and videos. We know this is a challenge for dry eye. We have a unique problem in this world with a relatively high percent of people sleeping with their eyes open. It's called REM sleep because it looks like the baby gazelles and how they sleep. And parents think it's very cute when they look and see their child sleeping with their eyes a little bit open. But it can be a big problem. And I think I've even recognized that unique staining pattern that our patients come to us with, this coarse band of staining that's really not in the textbook location for dry eyes. So I believe this is a regional problem that challenges us. Sometimes I ask a patient if they sleep with their eyes open, and they say, yeah, my whole family does. This is just the way we sleep. I'm going to go now and talk before about what I think is one of the most important things. I want to go back to our regional challenge. So there's a website that puts together all of these features, the humidity, the particulate matter, the high temperature, and they call it the misery index. And when you look at the globe from this point of view, the misery index, once again, it's really no surprise that we're up here on the high end of the scale. And if you look, there's not many other countries that share this rating. And you can see there's other parts of the world that also have this rating up here. But there's something different about our region and these other areas of the world. And that is that we are fairly well-to-do with resources. And we're able to actually control our environment, whereas those other areas, I don't think do so as well. And so, for example, while we live in this area that they call a high misery index, I'm willing to bet there's no one in the audience who really feels that way. None of us are in misery. We're all quite happy here. We're all very comfortable here. And the reason is because we can afford to do something about it. We can afford to have air conditioning in many places and as strong as we like. And so this is something that really makes us different, is the fact that we not only have this combination of harsh environment, it's mixed with this ability to actually control it. So going back to this model, I think it's very important that we look at the high draft speeds that are used to control it and how long a time we spend in this sort of environment. So the consequences of high draft speeds are it increases tear evaporation, it cools the tear film, and this really makes the function of the lipid layer far less effective and far less efficient. The meibum layer is designed to work at a very specific temperature. These alterations lead to increased tear breakup time, and you can see here, I won't show, like I said, I'm not going to show any studies or experiments, but I really like this figure because it shows that in this one experimental area where the blue line goes down, and that shows a break in the lipid layer from 100 microns to 0, the evaporation rate of the liquid underneath goes way up. So you're basically looking at the dynamics of a tear breakup. That it cools the tear film is also shown with some pretty fancy technology. Here you see a tear film that's breaking up, and when you pair it with a thermal camera, something that we're now all familiar with at the openings of our malls and stores and all, you can see that the tear breakup areas are definitely cooler. So I want to look at this from a really fun experiment I did with an air meter, where I went around my house where I could actually feel how strong the draft was, and I compared it with what should be accepted and what we consider is normal. So when we have the feet per minute in draft, we can start feeling it when it's around 100, and it becomes annoying when it's over 180. And so I bought this handheld draft meter, and I know you're curious to see how it works. Some of you, after I've spoken about this before, have come up to me and asked to borrow it. And I want to show you that, being a real scientist, I, of course, didn't trust that it would work. So I calibrated it on my Segway down the hall of my apartment building. And so here's what I'm doing is I'm comparing the speed of the draft meter with the speed of the Segway. And what I did on purpose is to drive it through all the speeds and then make a chart that compares the two, so I can calibrate whether it works or not. Now, the numbers don't agree there because one is in miles per hour and one is in feet per second, but I know that I'm just satisfying some of your curiosity by showing you that. So what I did is I went around my rooms, and I'm showing you here my bedroom, and I divided it into 1 meter quadrants with some string. And I basically went around taking measurements, and I played around with the vent fan location to see if I could have some say over the matter of what things are like. Now, when the vents are facing down, you can see the obvious that right in this area under the vent, it is very, very windy. Here's the chair in my bedroom, and that's at the annoying level. And if you go right underneath it, it's really, just very, very fast. When the fan is in the neutral level, I got findings I wasn't expecting, that I guess because the vent is up near the ceiling, the draft probably stayed over the level I was measuring and maybe swirled around to the exhaust and really created this measurable draft here over the bed. And so here's where I sleep, and here's where my wife sleeps. And I was so excited. I was just like, I felt like this great scientist. And I went over to my wife and I showed her these results. And she said to me, she said, you idiot, I've been telling you this for years. Why do you think I sleep with the cover over my head? And so I hope you're laughing a little bit, because I thought that was pretty funny. Now, when I moved the vent to the up position, it really took care of the situation. There was no, I couldn't measure less than 80, so I can't speak whether it was 70 or 60, but it wasn't at the feeling or annoying level. And so there's a message here, I think, for us. Now, I'm going to skip very quickly because this is obvious. I did the same experiment with the car, with the van, the vents in different locations, and everything's fine with them pointed up. But when they're pointed right at you, it's obviously also not very good. Here you can see it's just terrible. And as much as we say we know this, we all know when we get into our cars and it's real hot, we turn the fans right on us. But maybe for longer drives, we can try and avoid this situation. So let's go back to our model. I hope I've convinced you that draft speeds can be a problem, and when they are, they really can affect the tear film. And let's try to build this model together. So we have the end result of stressors that cause dry eye, increased evaporation, corneal neuropathy, limbal stem cell deficiency, goblet cell depletion, inflammation, and trauma. And we can make the argument that if you look at the literature, the primary events of air pollution and ultraviolet are to tax the limbal stem cells and reduce goblet cells. Again, I'm keeping my opinion of salt water out of this for now. Allergy and contact lens will cause trauma by rubbing or the physical presence of the lens. We know that diabetes causes a corneal neuropathy similar to peripheral neuropathy. And we certainly know that severing the nerves in refractive surgery causes a largely transient, but certainly not completely fixable corneal neuropathy. Meibomian gland disease, of course, it diminishes lipid layer stability, and leads to increased evaporation. So this should be simple enough that I know I'm not taking questions, but let's just keep moving. High draft speed does two things. Just by virtue of the high draft speed, it increases tear evaporation, but certainly by the cooling effect, it's also going to reduce stability of the lipid layer and indirectly increase tear evaporation. All the screen time use decreases blink rate. We know that on average about 50% when you're really concentrating on something. That will lead to increased exposure, which increases tear evaporation. But of course, the increased exposure is also going to help with this ocular surface cooling and impact the lipid layer instability. And then finally, not everyone has nocturnal logophthalmos, but when you have it, there's no doubt that it increases your exposure. So this is the model that I have that I'd like to throw out to you. And it's led us to think of several studies to try to get a better handle on it. I believe vitamin D deficiency should also be up here, perhaps as an indoor risk factor, because we stay out of the sun a lot. And I think that's a contributor to dry eye as well. And so what I want to do is say that whether or not we accept this model fully, we really have a lot to teach the world, because when we look at our condition, increasing temperature, increasing ultraviolet, air pollution, we can really see that the world is heading a lot in our direction. And that really gives us something to teach the rest of the world. So here's a temperature map of global temperature over the years, where red is hotter. And you can see over the last 100 years, we know the obvious, that it's been getting hotter. It's also true that ultraviolet exposure is increasing from the equator outward. So if you look at 0 degrees latitude here, you can see this purple curve that's showing the percent of ultraviolet increase. And where Europe is, it's up about 5 or 10% over the last, 10 or 20 years. Also, this color map shows the percent of ultraviolet increase starting with roughly where we're at and moving outwards. And if you superimpose Europe on this graph, you can see that they're also going to be getting more of that. Here's a weather model that shows the spread of weather like ours up north, here from the 60s to 1990, where Europe basically has 0 number of tropical days, what they define as tropical days. And if you go to the next set of years, it's spreading north, and by this model, it continues to spread to the north. So there's no doubt, I think, or there's good evidence to believe that the kind of challenges that we face are coming to the rest of the world. Now, this is a map showing animals moving away from the bad weather and bad climate, but we certainly know that we're not able to do this. So we adopt by other means, and we've seen this this summer as an adaptation to the weather. We also see that the number of people who have air conditioning in Europe is extremely low. If you can, it's hard to believe that there's only 6% of people have air conditioning, and the number is expected to grow quite a bit over the next bunch of years. So instead of this, we might start seeing something more like this. So we don't have a lot of time to go over ways to adapt to this model, but it's more of a call to our community to maybe start thinking of things like that, and to start approaching dry eye from considerations of this type of model. For example, in the old days, when someone had severe enough dry eyes, we used moisture goggles. Here's a person with graft versus host disease who had extreme dryness. But you can send your patients to Amazon for very, very inexpensive, for about 50 dirham, to get these cooking goggles that basically have a layer of foam so the bad vapors from onions and all don't irritate the eyes. But they also serve as moisture chambers to keep the moisture in. And we can even think about designing more with this in mind. If I went back to a classic textbook in 1963, which was really considered genius for its time, and the author talks about putting up barriers to break up these airflows that can really cause trouble. I also spoke with a friend of mine, Dr. Tariq in Al Ain, who said when his children were looking for new homes, he actually had an app that simulated these sorts of currents and helped them pick a home and modify it so that these currents wouldn't be as bothersome during their sleep or where they spent the most time. And I'm sort of switching topics, but I want to show again that I really don't think our problem is dry eye in the sense of decreased aqueous production. So those same 50 patients I showed you, when you look at Schirmer testing, above the red is normal. And here you can see the majority of these patients produce ample amount of tears. So we really need to think of out of the way, out of the box approaches for dry eye. And I'm really hoping I can stimulate some discussion with you after tonight on developing this model further. One thing it tells us when you look at this is artificial tears aren't enough. Artificial tears help for a short while and they're not enough. I am gonna say show a few slides on lifitegrast, which in the end, I'm gonna tell you some personal experience I had. So lifitegrast is not just a lubricant, it's an anti-inflammatory. It works by blocking T-cell adhesion. And so as bad as these T-cells are, they're loaded with trouble and they're coming to attack. The lifitegrast binds to the receptor instead of the ICAM sites, and they have no place to stick and therefore linger around. That's the only science slide you're getting tonight. Does lifitegrast work? It does work. It shows improvement over placebo in both subjective and objective findings. I want to be honest with you, when you look at this, does it cure dry eye? Are these surveys 0 compared to the placebo? No. Does it make a difference? Absolutely. And I'm going to show you that when you think of the problem that dry eye is, this is a big deal. The fact that we can do something is actually a big deal. We can't really be very proud of what we've accomplished with dry eye so far. And so I have to tell you, I was first skeptical when I saw these studies. I was like, well, who cares? 10%, what's the big deal? What, you know, but it actually is. It actually is. These placebo patients were taking artificial tears. And I want to show you something that makes me more excited about this drop than I started out being. But now I can tell you with great confidence that I'm a believer. So about 3 weeks ago, I started taking Xiidra in just one eye because you can tell from that air meter measuring the drafts that I like to do. I like to do fun experiments. And I started putting it in one eye only. And after a couple of weeks, the treated eye started feeling better. Now, I didn't think I had dry eye. I don't go around complaining about dry eye, and I wasn't even putting artificial tears in the other eye. But I noticed that even though one eye felt like it always did, which was fine, the treated eye felt better. And so I actually had photos taken. This is just from last Thursday. This is my eye taken 2 days ago, and this is showing you the temporal conjunctiva of the right untreated eye and the left treated eye. And I think the picture is coming in very clear. To me, this is just typical textbook pooling of the fluorescein, whereas here, it is very clearly staining and trouble. This was confirmed by one of our consultants, Dr. Greitz, who I asked to look at my eyes and told him, didn't tell him which eye was treated. Here's the nasal conjunctiva of the untreated eye and the treated eye. And so while there's still some staining on the treated eye, it really made this big of a difference after just 3 weeks. So I just found this out yesterday, but it completely has me thinking that lifitegrast is something that's really worth a try with our patients. And what I'm doing now is again, trying to stay a true scientist, and I'm switching to this eye here with the lifitegrast, and to stay consistent. Of course, I want to take artificial tears, but I'm going to keep consistent and not put artificial tears in the other eye and see what happens. So thank you very much. That's my presentation, and I'll give the screen back. I'll give the screen back to you, Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel. I was wondering actually what Dr. Samuel will talk today, because dry eye we are hearing every day, but you are, as usual, every time you are presenting in a different way, interesting way, attractive way. Really appreciate this presentation. I'm very happy because I listen for something different, you know. And I think if there is any questions or any comment from dear colleagues here, because you are all in this field and you are having a lot of patients of dry eye, and Dr. Samuel, he initiate a new concept also here. So if someone want to ask or to comment, anyone. Dr. Imad, because also I know you are well known in dealing with a dry eye. So if you have any comment or about the concept he mentions, I like it very much actually.
Well, I do believe that we all, as an ophthalmologist practicing in this part of the world, know that dry eye is a common problem here. And I am happy about the new development in the recent years, either in the matter of diagnostic tools like the tear lab, which gives the osmolarity, or the new inflammatory markers, which are now available in the market. And it's greatly improved our standard of practice and evaluation for that field. But also I am happy about the new medicine which comes out, like lifitegrast is a new player. It's a newcomer to the market. I think he will be a game changer also, because it's quite effective and efficient as per the studies. And we are waiting to be physically there in the UAE market so we can try it and test it for the patients.
Okay. Any other comments, Dr. Usama? If you have comments, Dr. Usama, please.
Yeah, it's a very nice talk, Sam, as usual. Yeah, I'm looking also forward to use it. I haven't used it yet, so hopefully within the next few months we're going to use it. So that will help us to manage better the dry eye.
Thank you. Dr. Mazin, Dr. Safwan, Dr. Rohit. Anyone have, yeah, Dr. Rohit, please go ahead.
Dr. Samuel, very, very nice presentation. I was happy that you brought in the concept of vitamin D, because that's been my area of work. And when I started publishing on vitamin D 10 years back, people felt that it was just an incidental find, not a direct link. And we published close to 26 publications. And the last one is in IOVS, where we look at I work on molecular data from the tears. And what we see is basically how the molecules, cytokines play important role. We take the tears and do our own analysis. What we feel is the person who has a vitamin D deficiency, his molecular inflammation is completely different from a person who has no deficiency. And the reason is, it is mostly not driven only by the deficiency in your blood. The corneal epithelial cells has vitamin D receptors. Yeah. We call it as the VDR receptor. And it shuts down when the deficiency is there. When you mentioned people not going out. When it shuts down, the inflammation is so high because there is some mechanism where the vitamin D receptors actually controls the inflammation. And we have noticed that even in COVID, there was a link between people who are having more symptoms of inflammation,
more severe,
have vitamin D deficiency.
That's right.
Exactly. So what we found as, if you give them oral treatment, the vitamin D receptors in your cornea does not increase, and your medication of drops, what you keep giving, does not make the vitamin D receptors to increase. So we did some tests where we took the conjunctival impression cytology from the cornea, and we could check for the vitamin D receptor. So one of the major factors today, especially the reason I brought it up, and very nicely you brought it up in your talk, is because of the climate change, is also because of the new normal we are all in. We are more indoors, and people going outdoors have shut down. Around 70 to 80% of the people, at least in the place where I belong, have completely not going out. So exposure to sunlight is completely dropped drastically. So vitamin D and its components will have a huge role in the dry eye management. And the reason you mentioned about your liftigrast, it works on a T cell mediated inflammation. And the classic, it blocks, you mentioned, we studied that, it's called ICAMP1. ICAMP1 is a molecule which blocks. And unlike the restasis or cyclosporin, which looks at IL-2, interleukin-2, 6, and MMP9. So ICAMP1 also is very highly increased in a vitamin D deficient patient. So that means when you are indoors and you're more inflammation and you're vitamin D deficient, your ICAMP1 is also one of the major factors to increase. So that is where I think these drops will have an important role. So this is what I wanted to sum up based on one of the part you mentioned, because
so help me build my model. Help me build my model. I know that it's going to belong in the indoor risk factor for being indoors, but where should the arrow go? Should it go right to the inflammation, or is there another mechanism first?
Vitamin D is a very silent worker, both in health and both in unhealthy patients. In health, you don't realize it.
Unfortunately, the net is not well.
Yes. So what
I'm not hearing your voice well. It's
Can
cutting.
you hear me now?
Yeah,
no,
now
okay,
we are hearing you.
Okay.
So vitamin D is a very, very silent worker, both in health and both in disease. When you're healthy, nobody understands its worth and nobody cares for it. And when you're unhealthy, it also plays an important role. In your case, according to me, arrow which has to go in your model is the arrow of inflammation, because vitamin D controls how your body actually controls your inflammation. See, let's take up one thing. Why has God or whoever has created us put so much of vitamin D receptors on the cornea? If something is there, it means it has to work. And vitamin D in your cornea it does not require sunlight. It can secrete its own. That means it has a tremendous amount of response there, which is we have no idea why it is happening. And in the model of all of us, I'm strongly believer that is one vitamin which we have to take care when you're treating dry eye. And many, many cases, we have seen that just treating it actually changes the patient's symptoms. And most important thing is, oral treatment does not get absorbed well. It's absorption issues. And the vitamin D receptors does not get kick-started. You need injectables when it's very low. So your model, it fits very well in where you can put the arrow to the inflammation.
Thank you, Dr. Rahit.
I just need one comment.
Yes,
Dr. Hamad, I know that the issues is delayed, and Rahit and Samuel, it was a great talk, but I didn't comment because I don't need to extend the talk because it's very excited. Now, what we are doing now, when anyone coming to me with the for example, PRK or trans PRK, I'm doing assessing the vitamin D. I do agree fully with Dr. Rahit and Samuel related to the effect of the vitamin D to the inflammation. Why I'm doing it in those particularly trans PRK, because I found that those that they have corneal haze after the trans PRK, we are assessing the vitamin D level, and around 70% of them, we found them that they have low vitamin D. Now, I agree with you that oral is not like the injectable exactly, but now in my practice, now I'm doing assessing the vitamin D for all patient trans-PRK, and I'm stopping them if they have low, and I'm increasing it in any way, whatever, then reassessing it's and starting. So it's, as you said, it's play a big role in that issues, the inflammatory issues for in tear film production.
Thank you, Dr. Safwan. Thank you very much. We are having many questions, but because we are late, actually, we will keep the question till the end of our discussion. So now we will start our discussion. Our main topics today is the management of presbyopia.
Dr. Mohammed, just one comment that we need to assess the net, because the net now your sound is cutting. It's not smooth. It's not current. It's not continuous. So please, John, let's John check the net and the issues in a way that it will be more fluent.
Okay, now everybody if there is anything, just comment, please. You are hearing me very well now. It's okay, Safwan?
We can hear you, Dr. Mohammed.
Well.
We can hear you, but actually there is an echo. When you talk, there is an echo.
Me or everyone?
No, only for you.
Only you.
Oh, because maybe my room is very big, so I don't know. There is no solution for the time being.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry for that. I can open the AC. Maybe it will decrease the echo a little bit. Anyway, so our topic today, is very interesting, and we are going to talk about presbyopia management. And the big question is, what are the different types of management of presbyopia? And I will leave the answer for Dr. Mazen to give these introductions. Please, Dr. Mazen.
Okay, Bismillah. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed. Now, I'm going to mention just a quick mentioning of the types of the presbyopia management. Actually, we have 10 types of presbyopia management or treatments. Let's say we have glasses, contact lenses, and then we have the lens-based. The lens-based has the laser-based. The laser-based has two types. The first type is the multifocal cornea, and the second type is the type that depends on changing the asphericity of the cornea and spherical aberration. Then we have the lens-based presbyopia treatment. The lens-based starts from the very simple, from the monofocal IOL with the mini and monovision. Then we have the premium lenses, such as the multifocals, the trifocals, and the extended depth of focal lenses. Then there are corneal inlays. The corneal inlays are of two types: the refractive corneal inlay and the small aperture corneal inlay. So it is not only one type. There are two types of corneal inlays. Actually, the decision depends on 10 factors. So we have 10 types and we have 10 factors. We have to consider patients.
Dr. Mazen, if we can keep the decision, so it will be part of the discussions, if you allow me. Maybe when we are going to talk about each one, then we have to say why we are selecting this one. What is the reason for that? Is that what you are going to mention?
It is just an overview, okay. Just to give an idea.
Okay.
Because all of these factors affect all types of presbyopia management.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
So patient's age, patient's demand, patient's type of personality, if there is a cataract or a clear lens, crystalline lens, whether the lens is in the cataract stage or maybe it is just clear. What about the refractive error of the patient? Does he have myopia, hypermetropia, with or without astigmatism, or the patient is ametropic? Then tolerance test and other tests that we can expect the tolerance of the patient of special types, whether there is ocular morbidity, for example, the dry eye, glaucoma, retinal diseases, and the systemic comorbidity such as diabetes, collagen diseases, blood pressure, or other comorbidities. And finally, previous corneal laser vision correction. Maybe the patient had previous corneal laser vision correction and he is asking for presbyopia treatment now. And finally, we have the corneal regularity.
Everybody is hearing Dr. Mazen?
Yes. Yes, everybody.
So So finally, then the corneal regularity and the high order aberrations. Of course, everybody is looking for a solution which is safe, efficient for all distances, and reversible. And by this, I can open the discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Mazen. So if you allow me, I will summarize for dear participants and all of you. Let us say, I will not mention as a 10. I was preparing that to be the main things because the other one is subdivision, if you allow me, Dr. Mazen. So we are having 4 lines of treatment, either the eyeglasses and contact lenses. This is one. Second line of management is laser-based, whatever the type. And then the third line of management is lens-based, and the fourth line of management is camera inlay. So everybody is agree about this one, or anyone have to add or to comment?
Yeah, for the inlay, not only camera. Camera is a small aperture, but there are the other type of inlays, which is the refractive inlay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lenticule that is implanted within the cornea in order to do a job.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we will go to the questions and we'll start about the eyeglasses and contact lenses. I will ask this one. Can you, Mr. John, show this one? We'll take this voting, and we'll ask eyeglasses first line, is it still the first line of management for presbyopia, yes or no? So can we have this question, please? And everybody can answer, please. I need ask my dear participant to answer this question. Even the speakers, if you want to share your also with us, this one also, it will be a good. Then submit, please, everyone. Let us wait for about 10 seconds, then we can get the result. Okay. John, if you can, please, everybody finish, please, from our here at least our speakers, they submit. So let us see the result, John. Yes. So we are having about 96% of the here voting people, they are saying is yes, and no, it is only in 4%. So let us see the opinion of our leaders here of managing of. So Dr. Arthur, if you want to, I will start with you and give us your opinion about this. How far you are still working with contact lenses and glasses?
Yeah, no, I think those numbers are right. Unfortunately, you know, I think there's something like 2.2 billion people on Earth currently who are presbyopic.
Yeah.
And if you look at the number of procedures we do globally as ophthalmologists to correct presbyopia, it's a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
And it's quite a pity, because the benefits of having presbyopia corrected in your eye as opposed to with glasses is a lot more than just cosmetic. It's functional. You know, I don't know how many of you are aware, most of you are, I'm sure, but if you wear varifocal glasses, you increase your risk of falling and either getting a head injury or breaking a hip or breaking a knee. Those 3 things by 11%. So can you imagine if you just, every cataract patient you treated, or every presbyopia you treated, you got them seeing well without the need for wearing around in varifocals, you've addressed that problem, just that one problem. So yeah, I think those numbers are completely right. Is for the moment, people still go to glasses for presbyopia correction. Hopefully it's going to change now with masks, because people don't like masks and glasses at the same time.
Yes.
Okay, what do you think the reason behind that, the number of this percentage? I will ask this for Dr. Ahmed Assaf. Dr. Ahmed, why do you think the number of the patients, they are still looking for the glass and contact lenses rather to go to another methods of management?
Well, I still believe that most of the patients are happy with their reading glasses, let's say near glasses, because sometimes the reading glasses is not the correct term to describe these kind of spectacles. These spectacles should be used now not only for reading, but just for TVs, for computer screens and tablets and cell phones and any near work within the 40 centimeters from the patient's eye, or from the subject's eye, let's say, because they are not all patients, they are just normal subjects. So I do believe that the number is pretty high with the spectacles, because we had some issues in the past 2 decades with the other types for management of presbyopia. The modalities like the multifocal lens, we had the bifocal lens, we had the nighttime halos and dysphotopsias, and the patients were not happy with this type of lenses. Maybe some kind of inlays, corneal inlays has been withdrawn from the market because of suboptimal visual outcomes or some complications, or corneal haze, for example. So we had some issues. Still, we are in the beginning of the road for correction of presbyopia. Don't forget the accommodating lenses, intraocular lenses. Already, we had some of these lenses in the past 2 decades, and now they are not. They are vanished in the meantime. So still the main line of treatment so far is the spectacles and contact lenses. But I'm very optimistic down the road for the next 10 years that this might be changed a little bit.
Thank you, Ahmed. Let me ask here Dr. Safwan. What do you think, Dr. Safwan, type of glasses is most common to people, bifocal or the multi, the other ones they are using? Which one you are facing? Yes,
Dr. Muhammad, the issues is that I think that I agree with both my colleague, Dr. Arthur and Dr. Ahmed, that our understanding for the current treatment is not reaching the satisfaction level of the patient. So from all our types of whether it's laser-based or lens-based or the use of lenticular.
Dr. Safwan, I'm asking about only glasses, please, and contact lenses. I want about your comment about.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, please, if you don't mind, Dr. Muhammad, if you don't mind. So here, from that point, we have to use the glasses. Otherwise, we don't need, as Dr. Arthur said, the glasses create a lot of trouble for the patient. But your question is that whether we are using bifocal or trifocal. Unfortunately, that the progressive lens that we are prescribed for almost all our patients, most of our patients, because they are working patients that they need for intermediate and the near and the distance, the opticians and the doctor, they are not teaching those patients in a well or a good standard, in a way that they will understand what's the progressiveness of this lens. So they need to tilt their head for down to see the distance, and up to see the near. Meanwhile, they are using them all in the intermediate vision. My concern is that I'm teaching the patient well for the use of the progressive. Otherwise, if those patients that they are not using the computer, I prefer to give them bifocal.
Thank you, Dr. Safwan. Just for sake of the time, we want only as much as we can for everyone this comment, so that we can benefit from the time. My question now about the laser-based management of presbyopia. I want Dr. Osama to give a concept. What is the concept behind the laser-based management of presbyopia?
So basically, it's laser-based management. It can be divided in two, really. Either the monovision, which I think is the most common way to help presbyopia, but there's a limitation. So
what do you mean by monovision, Dr. Osama? Just
you make one eye short-sighted.
Yeah.
So basically, the dominant eye, we make it for distant, and non-dominant eye, we make it slightly short-sighted, between like -125, -1.5. And that can give you a near vision when it's age of 50, but when the patient is age of 60, then he will have intermediate vision. So it'll give you a bit the freedom of a glass, but doesn't eliminate the glasses. I think that's the easiest option as laser-based treatment.
Osama, we'll talk about limitation and disadvantage, but I want only the concept.
The other one is the other option. The other modality is multifocality, and there's different multifocality option, depends on the different laser platform where you can do multifocality, or the other option also what you call extend depth of field, and that's the third option, looking in the cornea in the laser platform.
Thank you, Osama. Before I continue in this one, I will ask all here panelists who is like to work on a laser base and who wants to work most commonly want to work on a lens base. I mean, if you will ask Dr. Safwan, you are working with.
Now, when I'm doing both, depending on the patient's condition.
So it is both. Both.
So both.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Mazen?
Yeah, both.
Both.
Yes.
Dr. Ahmed?
Both.
Both. So Dr. Arthur is giving the answer in very good way and very fast. Okay. So Dr. Yeah, okay. Dr. Rahid? Both. Dr. Imad?
Actually, it's
what happens to you guys?
It's depend on the patient, but I think all using both.
Dr. Ahmed also both? Or you like? Okay. But if I ask who wants laser-based more, I mean, who prefer this? And you can work both, but you like or more your patient is laser-based. Who is willing or he is prefer to go for a laser more than others?
No,
I think really age factor. Age factor is very crucial here. Age factor is very, very crucial here. I think the most important factor here is the age.
Okay, let's go to the question. What is the eligibility for those laser-based management?
Age factor and the time, the improvement in the.
Your voice is, I don't know. Okay, eligibility. Who is, for example, if I want to ask Dr. Samuel, if you are treating a patient with a laser, what is the patient that you think they are?
No voice.
You can hear me? Hello?
We can hear you, Dr. Muhammad. We can hear you.
Okay. I think
your internet is not good, so that's why the voice is coming in non-fluent way.
No, Dr. Safan, maybe you are the one not hearing because the other they are hearing me. This is the reason. Okay, so eligibility, can you ask Dr. Samuel about the eligibility of the patient for who's the patient they are eligible to go for a laser-based management?
I agree with that. I think we all feel strongly that it's a topic that really has a lot to do with the patient age, the state of their lens, and what their needs are. But for me, the big determinants are the nature of any refractive error that's there. If they're hyperopic, for example, that'll push me one full step over to lens-based surgery, knowing the inaccuracy of the laser and and how much happier they're going to be if that's corrected with lenses as well. The magnitude of the error also is a big deal. If they're a high myope and they're younger, I start worrying about the formed vitreous and retinal issues. So that'll push me also in another direction. And then when I'm on the fence, I can't speak highly enough about maybe simulating what you're trying to do to the patient, either with a contact lens trial of monovision or maybe seeing if they wore multifocal contact lenses before that, because you should really try not to change whatever strategy they came to you with. So all of this is really important. And I think managing expectations is,
okay.
This is obvious, but it's
I want to summarize this point. Can I hear this from Dr. Mazen? If you can give it in a point so they can, our participants say, if they are having, I know there is so many things, it cannot be summarized, but I know you are well known of the people that are moving systematically and educational. So I want to hear this from you. The eligibility for the laser base.
Okay, for the laser base depends on, as I said, on 10 points. But however, we have to, very important to check the tolerance of the patient and a simulation, as Dr. Sam said, simulation of the patient vision. And this is for 2 points. Maybe when the patient experiences what the vision will be after, maybe he will decide not to go for that. The other thing is, in some types, there will be differences between both eyes in terms of the refractive error and the corneal asphericity. So we have to test how much difference the patient can tolerate. It is not a cutoff value to say that the difference should be 1.5 in order to get all distances. Sometimes some patients may not tolerate even 0.5 diopters difference between both eyes. In addition, it is not necessarily that the dominant eye will be for distance while the non-dominant eye will be for near. Some patients, they use the opposite. The non-dominant, they are more comfortable with having the dominant eye for near. they are rare, but they are there. So actually, there are special tests to go for, and of course, special considerations for the mainly to summarize, age, patient's demands, and the refractive error or the refractive status of the eye, and of course the status of the lens.
Okay, if we ask Dr. Ahmad, what is the age you prefer, or you will think about laser-based rather to go for the lens-based if we want to talk about the age? What is the age is suitable or pushing you to go for a laser-based rather than lens-based?
Thank you for the question, Muhammad. If you allow me just to clarify one concept, accommodation is a dynamic feature. When we try to replace it by a static situation, whether it is lens-based or corneal-based, the brain will still confused. The right solution, in my view, is moving this dynamic feature from the eye to the brain. And in order to do that, we should understand how the brain works. We are now developing our understanding about summation, suppression, adding, and the special filters in the brain for the spherical operation. And because we are not good enough till now in understanding how the brain processing the image we are providing, that's why we are still evolving. The art of treating presbyopia is still evolving. If we went back to the age, to your question.
Please. This is the question.
I do believe that a couple of multifactors are governing the age, but usually the people who are start to demand it in the mid-40s, and the majority of these people theoretically should have a clear optical media. That's why in this age group, I do believe laser is the way to start with. But when we go to the 50s or maybe 60s, we can expect that.
No, Dr. Ahmad, it's okay. I need only an answer so that we can move systemically. So please, I know there is a lot if you want to talk about presbyopia, but we want to make as simple as possible to our participants, so we don't want to go to any complications. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Dr. Rahid, please, in a fast. So we need only a very short so that we can cover all the material, please. Go ahead, Dr. Rahid.
Apart from all that has been discussed, what I would look for, which is very important, Dr. Mohammed mentioned about clear optical media. But what happens is when you are between 40 and 50, clinically you don't see anything clear. Everything looks clear, but the lens will have a lot of aberrations with it. Machines like eye trace will call it as a DLI, a dysfunctional lens index. It's very important, especially if you're doing a laser on the cornea. Because if your lens is already started showing a change, there's a chance that it will have a problem. And second important thing which we need to consider is, I always ask a question: were you comfortable with your progressive glasses? And many times they will say that we were not comfortable with the progressive glasses, and that's why I've come for a laser. That is a very, very important red flag to me. The reason is, when you put these patients to a detailed binocular fusional testing, most of them have convergence issues. They don't fuse. And that's one of the reasons why the patients don't fuse well. The fusional vergence is extremely poor. And that's one of the reasons these people are not happy with your progressive glasses. If you do a laser correction on them, they don't fuse at all. And they will always complain of glare. So these are my two most important points. One, if you're doing high volume presbyopia surgery, please look for not just the clinical aspect of your lens, look for aberration of your lenses. Higher aberrations, higher trefoil is one of the major issues which will cause a lot of problem. And second is, all my patients of presbyopia, I evaluate them for basic binocular single vision testing, which includes convergence, accommodation, and fusional vergence. And if I find that they're poor, we need to give them exercise before and after surgery. That's what I need to. This is the point I do in my practice.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rahid. Again, please, we are having still a lot of things to discuss. There is a scenario I will mention to you, so we don't want to go and to finish everything in one just slide. So I need only in a very short advantage and disadvantage of laser-based, just in a point. Who can give this one? If I ask Dr. Ahmed or Dr. Arthur, any one of you, please, advantage or disadvantage of laser-based. Just in a point, yani 1, 2, 3, 4, that's it.
Just 2 points that the advantage, to my humble opinion, for the laser-based, that is still an extraocular procedure. It's less invasive compared to the intraocular procedure to correct presbyopia. This is one advantage for the laser-based. But I do believe that it does not provide the full range of near vision and intermediate vision as the lens-based procedure. So we have win-win situation. We have to choose according to the lifestyle of the patient and according to the age and the clarity of the lens, as mentioned before.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ahmed.
Hamid, can we just clarify for maybe the participants, but also for me, when you're referring to laser-based, are we talking monovision and specialized profiles or manipulation of higher orders, or just one of these categories?
Usually it's, thank you very much for this question, because I need to clarify this. Usually it's a sort of mini monovision and use some asphericity of the non-dominant eye, making it hyperpolate cornea, so induce more depth of focus. So it's a mini monovision with aspheric profile in the non-dominant eye.
Mm.
So the last point here in the laser-based management is what is the limitations? Dr. Mazen, please, if you can give us what is the limitation for the laser-based management, whatever it is. I mean, either the first one or the first option or the monovision or other ones.
Well, it depends on the type. For the mini vision, mini and mono, however, so it depends on how much the difference the patient can tolerate. So it depends on the tolerance. Sometimes the tolerance is just like 0.75 or 0.5. So for sure, it will not cover all distances. Now for the multifocal laser based, the limitation is the multifocality, which is the main disadvantage is irreversibility. And for the, let's say
Mazen, the yes. Multifocality is reversible by laser.
Yeah, I know that there are platforms but based on studies, let's say it is not 100% reversible.
Yeah, it is only a spherical aberration, so we are reversible. I'm
not talking about the spherical aberration. I'm talking about the multifocal.
Yeah, multifocality is a spherical aberration. That's the idea that you have it. It's a spherical aberration. It's a multifocality in a spherical aberration. It's a negative spherical aberration. I don't know. I think that.
Are you talking about Q-guided treatment or
no?
The other
Q-guided is a spherical. Is a Q changes. I'm talking about.
Okay, let us take another opinion. So in between Dr. Mazen and Dr. Safwan. Dr. Arthur, if you can comment about the difference, what they are talking about.
Because multifocal is a multifocal. It is not just asphericity.
It's a multifocal, right? Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a multifocal, and that multifocality is a negative spherical aberration in the center. I think that maybe we can ask Dr. Arthur. He can explain more. But this is the issue. This is the principle of the multifocality.
Let us, yeah, Dr. Safwan, we are having a difference between views. If you let us have another opinion. Yes, Dr. Arthur, if you can comment about this point.
I think this is probably not the forum to go into detail of that because it's quite complex. I think the key thing for all of us and our patients is whenever you discuss presbyopia, I start off by saying, look, this is a compromise. And it's my job, along with you, to try and find your best compromise. And so people say, what do you mean? And they say, well, if you have both eyes for distance, you can't read. And then I'd say to them for monovision or blended vision, I'd say, you know, if you had 3 eyes, I could solve the problem for you. We'll have 1 eye for distance, 1 eye for the computer, 1 eye for near. And then people very quickly understand, okay, I get that. So if we do some kind of blended vision, I'm going to be missing one of them. So, and then you've got to do the same thing for lenses. And when they start understanding that you're splitting light, then people understand. And I think our job is to simply find the best compromise for that person's solution. That's it. They're all compromises. There's not one solution that's going to work, except 0 and -1 for the 45-year-old. That'll give them everything, but not for long. So I think for the moment, everything we do is a compromise, and it's our job to figure out the best compromise. So you asked a good question, Dr. Almari. What's the biggest downside to laser? And that would probably be that it's a temporary solution. It's an interface solution, but it might be the best thing for the moment. So I think if you see mini monovision or blended vision as an interim process, and once the person gets to 55, 60, 65, they have more aberrations in the lens then, and then you can start looking at IOLs. But at the end of the day, it's a complex decision.
That's right.
Anyway, as we mentioned,
one minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. If you're in that, that's all.
No, okay, go ahead, please.
That's all.
Give your comment, please, fast. I know there is a debate.
This is an important point. If you will skip it, because these points, it's an important. When we are talking about, for example, monovision and induce a negative spherical abrasion in the center, and then combine them both, and we have a technology that can combine them both, that can create a micro monovision and a spherical abrasion that it's changeable, means that in a dominant eye I have an add of +1, and in a non-dominant eye I have a +2. This is the issues that I can offer it to the patient if he can withstand it, and I can test it on a multifocal contact lens. Then if that patient that happy with it, then that patient will be a candidate for it. Ageless means that I can offer it for a patient with 41 up to the 50 if he can withstand a +2 in a non-dominant eye, a +1 in a dominant eye, and a micro monovision in a way that, for example, -0.75 and -0.25. If that patient accepted, then it will solve all the problem. And definitely conditioning that our machine can afford us with this technology. Now, if our machine affords us only with the +1.5 and it's fixed for both eyes, and with a micro, 100% we will not succeed. So from this point of view, we can discuss it. Yes. So it is a technology base, and on this base.
Yeah, that's why, Dr. Safwan, I don't want to go through because of the different machine capabilities and this one. So we want only the concept, the normal that we know about it. So we don't want to go in deep about the capability of different type of machines. If you allow me, please. So let us go now out of the laser base and go to the another solutions that we are using is the lens-based management. And I want Dr. Osama, because I asked him before also about the concept. Let us ask now Dr. Ahmed, please, if you can give us the concept about the lens base and the eligibility, both of them in one, and in a few points, please. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed.
I think now we have exciting technology for lens-based treatments for the presbyopia. Now we have new trifocal lenses. We have new versions of the extended depth of focus. So it's an improvement compared to the previous bifocal, let's say, bifocal lens that used to implant in our patients. We have new optics with less dysphotopsias, better functionality at all distances, starting from the 40, 16, 80, and to infinity. So I do believe that our patients will be quite happy with these type of lenses once they are eligible for these lenses. And of course, we have a variety or varieties of these lenses to choose among the quality or the life or style of our patients or subjects.
Who is the eligible for this, Dr. Ahmed?
Of course, the first thing that the lens should not be clear, or at least some sort of aberrations in these lenses as documented by ray tracing or some sort of aberrometer. So this is the most important factor that you might consider this type of surgeries. Of course, other points to be discussed is the cornea sphericity and this patient that cannot work on the cornea level, or these patients are demanding extended depth of focus starting from 40 centimeters, for example, at all distances, which cannot be provided by the laser vision correction. So we can go for this type of surgeries of lens-based surgery for treatment.
You already mentioned that means the advantage and disadvantage in the same time. Can you finish it by what is the limitations?
Limitations is the selection criteria. I do believe you have a long list of selection criteria and checklists to be fulfilled before selecting these lenses. And the most important, that the patient should understand that we're trying to mimic the natural crystalline lens, and this is not a fully accommodative lens as the crystalline lens, it's pseudo accommodative lens. So the patient must understand this lens, and I do believe these lenses are for genius or for smart people. They should understand this technology, otherwise these people will not be happy with this lens, as long as even the surgery is quite perfect, but this sometimes the subjects are not happy. So they should understand this.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Yeah.
Those patients that they are not eligible for trifocal, now we are using the EDOF, which is the extended depth. And we are seeing, because it's a new technology and it's newly registered in UAE at least. So we are trying these lenses for those that they are not eligible from a cornea point of view, that they have a high order abrasions or any contraindication for a trifocal. And I found personally that they are very happy for 40 or 45, especially for those that, for example, patients that we have done a laser-based treatment for them. And now we are running a study and using an EDOF for those patients that they have a plus 1.5. And we found that a result is very promising, especially for those EDOF that they will, the company promised that they will provide an EDOF or extended depth of focus with the toricity. So it's a promising technology.
Thank you, Dr. Safwan. Now we will move to the next. Yes, Dr. Mazen. Yes. Yeah,
actually, Dr. Safwan mentioned a very important point, which is that EDOF can be used even if the cornea has high order aberrations which are abnormal. Now, I would like to hear is that right, Dr. Safwan?
Yes.
Did you say that?
Yes, it's right.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd like to hear the opinion about the same point from Dr. Ahmed Assaf and Dr. Arthur Cummings about this point, whether EDOF is very safe whenever the high order aberrations, for example, the RMS is 0.6 or not.
Okay, so there's a question. Yeah, Dr. Ahmed, go ahead, then Dr. Arthur, please.
I'm very cautious to implant these lenses in irregular cornea. Still cautious to implant EDOF lens in highly irregular corneas. Sometimes you find the cornea is a marginal. It's not the candidate, or the eye is not very well eligible for trifocal or multifocal lens. For example, a little bit of coma or some spherical aberrations higher than normal for the cornea of a specific eye. So at this times I might implant the EDOF lens, or after laser vision correction, previous laser vision correction, provided that the ablation profile is good, or the standard ablation profile is large and the optic zone is large, and there is no too much induced abrasion at the corneal level. But for example, sometimes maybe RK, as the number of RKs are less than 8, maybe 4, 6, or 8, maybe I will consider EDOF lens. But in highly irregular corneas, I think maybe we can add on, I will go for the add-on lens, like the extra focus lens of Morsher with small pupil aperture lenses. And I've planted a couple of these lenses in some patients with highly irregular corneas for treatment of presbyopia, and they are quite happy.
Dr. Arthur, you are having any other comments, please?
Yeah, Mazen, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think one of our biggest problems at the moment is our lens classifications are not clear. EDOF is too broad a term. EDOF, in my book, covers the pinhole, the IC8, and of course, that's a fabulous lens in an aberrated cornea, no problem. Then there's a new lens from Alcon called the Vivity, which is a wavefront shaping lens.
That's from
fabulous lens in a complicated eye, no problem.
Yes.
But my experience, and most people's experience, is for a diffractive EDOF, they probably are less tolerant than a diffractive trifocal. So my personal experience is I would stay away, in a cornea with a lot of aberrations, I would stay away from diffractive lenses, whether they're trifocal or EDOF. I think it's the mode in which the EDOF works is the issue.
That's right.
So,
right.
so, so you prefer, so you don't prefer to go for EDOF even if there is a high order abrasion?
No, this is not the EDOF that Arthur. Arthur, it's a very specific, because you are specifying the type of EDOF. We need to understand that, because here I didn't classify the EDOF. The EDOF that we are using is not the one that you mentioned. That it's
diffractive.
Refractive.
Diffractive, you mean?
It's not a diffractive form of EDOF. We are not using the diffractive form of EDOF. So when we are saying that we can use the non-diffractive form of EDOF in a high order abrasions corneal, it's not a non-selective. No, it's a selective. So which one that we need to select? When we have an inferior comma, vertical comma, yes, we can. But when we have a high trefoil, no, we can't. So it is here, it's a highly selective, but the issues is that it needs a lot of discussion, because corneal high order abrasions, corneal wavefront analysis, it's an art. So we need to analyze that case for those patients especially. And for those that they have a high demand and they cannot afford monovision and they have a high order abrasions, that's right, it's a limited number of patients, but we have it in our practice. I think the non-diffractive EDOF, it can be one of the solution. It's still under process. We are just doing few cases, and we are saying that it's a promising technology that we can depend on it if we are seeing that their intermediate vision to near means that 40 to 45 improved and it not affect the distance vision. That's my point of view.
Thank you, Dr. Safwan. Can just move to another points. We are having the camera inlay, and I think Dr. Mazen also mentioned another type. So I want Dr. who is willing to, Dr. Rahit, if you can. Arthur is the one who is okay. Dr. Mazen, because he's a share person, he can select with me anyone to answer the question. Please, Dr. Arthur, want to give us a very short.
And then Rohit. We will hear from him.
Okay, so Rohit and Arthur. Yes, please go ahead, Dr.
Sorry, Dr. Mohammed. Please, Arthur, would you please talk just very briefly about the inlays for the presbyopia?
About the concept, eligibility, advantage, and limitations. We need a very short, in 1 minute, please.
Okay, in 1 minute, inlays were very promising, but have turned out to be very disappointing because of their biocompatibility. Some of the processes like pinhole made a lot of sense, but also cost people in terms of light. So I'm afraid that for most people, inlays are a very short-term solution, and most inlays are removed again. I've one very small experience for 60 cases. We did it in part of a clinical trial, doing an inlay with corneal tissue, and that was very, very promising. So I think human collagen or human corneal inlays are going to be possible for the future, but synthetic inlays, I have my doubts. Professor Shetty, what do you think?
Right.
I was not directly involved with the inlays. The reason being, we did start with a colleague of mine, and we had, I don't know whether it's the geographical or genetic factors which was different, because we thought the results were good. When we tried, many of them had quite bad inflammation. And even when we had to remove it, it was quite a difficult one. So it was, and we thought that it is just not the one which we would try, because it's just giving a pinhole effect. But a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, Dr. Sri Ganesh, he is in Bangalore, and he did a lot of smile lenticule-based inlays to build. And like you mentioned, the future is going to be additive technologies. The only challenge now is that that even today, if you want to take a lenticule and implant it, it still comes under the whole eye-bank rules, because it's a tissue. And with COVID being around, there's always a challenge about what you transmit. And in fact, just for everybody here, that the work which I was doing is to find the COVID-based receptors in the whole eye I dissected the whole eye, and this is something which is very interesting. All of you should know, even though it's not part of the corneal epithelium and the stroma has the same amount of receptors of ACE2 and catapsin related ones, where the virus attaches exactly the same as what you see in lungs or the nasal mucosa. So we just cannot take it very lightly. And we took some 7 eyeballs and dissected every layer by layer to retina, and the retina has the least. So any inlays we do has to be now with a very strict protocol that it does not, I mean, just like Arthur, once upon a time, the British and we were worried about the mad cow disease. And, we were worried about what is going to transfer on the corneal buttons. I think exactly the same thing. But I'm not a big fan of, Dr. Mazam, I'm not a big fan of inlays at this point of time.
Okay, can I go back just the question? So camera inlay, if according to the division that Dr. Mazen mentioned, so the concept behind this one, it is either, as far as I know, there is one is depending on a pinhole-like effect, one of them, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the other one, it's, so I want this one to be clear for the participant. So they are depending, what is the concept of behind of the camera itself?
So the other one, the camera's pinhole, and the Alatex human collagen and the raindrop that is not on the market anymore was based on spherical aberration, like Dr. Albayati was talking about that the laser can create.
That's
and
right.
Spherical aberration gives you a lot of depth of focus with a very small compromise on visual quality. So it's a very nice solution. And the beauty of the corneal inlays, especially those that are human collagen, is when you remove them, there's no footprints. So they are truly reversible. Sometimes when you remove the raindrop for 6 months, 9 months, sometimes even longer, there was a footprint where you could see this inflammatory response still.
Yeah, Dr. Arthur, I removed personally a few of them. We had one surgeon here in Dubai, and he did around 25, and then he stopped. There was a lot of complaint. So I had to remove. The main issues is that the centration. And unfortunately, most of the surgeons that they did it, they are not considered. A very important things in all presbyopic treatment is that this presbyopic treatment should be applied on the visual axis, and how to apply the inlay on a visual axis. And what I saw is that when you are removing this inlay, the trace of it will stay decentered to the visual axis and annoying the patient even after removal. Then I stopped removing them because the patients start to complain more. And that's one of the important issues that makes even removing the inlay as a problem for the patients.
I'd like to ask Arthur, what about the late hyperopic shift with the camera inlay? Have you experienced such complication or side effects about the late hyperopic shift, or do you target myopia at the time of implantation, or do you just do it sequential methods, or what? Do you target a little bit of myopia for the eye implanted with the camera inlay?
So what we did years ago when we were doing it is we were advised to target minus 0.75. But in all the time, over 3 years that I used camera, I implanted 13. So I was very, very slow with them. And I've removed of camera only probably about 3 or 4. But of the raindrop, I implanted 18 over 3 or 4 years, and I removed at least half of them now.
Yes.
So I think any artificial inlay, we're going to be bitten at some point. The cornea doesn't like those kinds of foreign bodies. But what I can tell you is with the human collagen inlays, like Susan Jacob is doing in India, like we're doing with Alatex, which is from an eye bank, human corneal collagen that's been eye banked. The compatibility is extremely good. And I have removed a couple, not for any incompatibility issues, but only for patient satisfaction issues. And from the moment you remove the inlay, the cornea is back to where it was before you started. So there's no footprint. So I think that's really got it's really got a place.
So, Dr. Arthur,
thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Dr. Wright. Yes.
Just one thing I wanted to add is the whole reaction of inlays depends on your ocular surface disease itself. The reason is when you have a very bad ocular surface, the corneal keratocytes and the corneal nerves have a lot of dendritic cells. And minute you put anything foreign in it, the first thing it does is it explodes 100 times more than a person who has a good ocular surface. So we realize that a healthy ocular surface, there's no footprint of anything. There's no fibrosis. And that is one thing which I think many times inlays has been told that you don't need to worry about your dry eyes because you're not cutting the nerves or you're not doing anything. So in fact, I feel the ocular surface plays a very important role in inlays than any other procedure, because minute you put in, your reaction of keratocytes is completely different compared to the ocular surface. So I think that if somebody wants to do an inlays, the ocular surface has to be perfect, or you have to make it perfect for at least 3 to 6 months, make your person absolutely healthy. And then probably, and the best way to do it is you give them an OSDI score or a speed questionnaire, which tells you what is your status.
I think will be very difficult to have a patient completely ocular service. Everyone is having some sort of that. So it will be very difficult. So now let's go to a scenario or cases presentation. I will present with you a case, and I want your opinion. Before I take the opinion or your your input about this case, we will take voting from our colleagues or participants. The first case is a 41-year-old is working with a computer, have difficulty in near vision.
Can you share the screen, please?
Yeah, I think that you shared the screen.
You want me to share the screen? Okay.
Yeah, at least we can read it in more.
Okay. I will do so far. Now you can see.
Yeah.
Or you want me to enlarge it also?
Enlarge it. I think that's better.
Okay. So this is the case here. A 41-year-old and working with a computer, having difficulty in near vision. Visual acuity for distance 6 both of eyes. Visual acuity for near is J6 corrected to J1 by +1 added, and patient doesn't want to use an eyeglass or contact lens. So what is the best solution in this case? Can we have now the Mr. John the questions for the participants to answer? Then we can have the idea or the comment from our here.
But do you have the refraction, Mohammed?
Sorry?
The refraction is what's the refraction of this patient? Because that's very important. Is he hyperopic or what?
He is normal, Dr. Usama, without any. No, yeah, okay. So here, what is the best solution in this case? Can you answer even the one, the speakers here and panelists?
I think we have to add another option, which is just glasses.
Okay. I didn't do that actually because he don't want. I said in that question, he doesn't want to wear a glass. He don't want a glass. It is there. So this is the question. Okay. So can we have the answers, Mr. John? What is the
answers does not have the glasses. I would agree with Dr. Mazim that the glasses would be the option for him because laser.
Yeah, but this is the patient is asking that I don't want to use a glass or contact lens. That's why we didn't put a glass. So if the patient doesn't want. So after we can discuss if this is only suitable for glasses or contact lens and he cannot do the other, then maybe this is the other solution. We can convince him. But as a patient, he don't want the glass or contact lens. So here, this is the answer of our participants. The laser-based correction is in 57. We are having lens-based correction in 30%, and camera inlay we are having about 14%. So now, what do you think here, dear colleagues? I want to take your opinion. Let's start with Dr. Mazen. What do you think?
Well, I think that there are, of course, other factors that should be studied, like the high order aberrations, angle kappa, for example. But for such +1, I don't do any of those. I just try to convince the patient to stay on his glasses because it is just +1. And if we go for the laser-based, it will be, temporary. couple of years, then there will be a change. So I don't do any of those.
Okay, Dr.
Rohit, sorry for that.
Dr. Mazen, do you mean a change because the patient will outgrow it, or a change in that the
physiological changes?
I mean the presbyopia will increase.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to add one thing. I know I'm cutting in front of, but I want to speak to that. I have between 0.5 and 0.75 of monovision, and I want to just tell anyone who doesn't use this that it is incredibly valuable and incredibly useful. And as long as I know not to be greedy and want more, and I don't mind keeping a pair of +1s in my pocket, I really have to say how incredibly pleased I am at 60 years of age. So I'm not one of these 50-year-olds, but I'm 60 years old. And I want to tell you that I really love and appreciate the half diopter, or maybe at most 3/4 diopters that I have. So I think the patient may outgrow it, but only to the point where they'll need the +1s for the reading and occasional items.
Okay, doctor, but the patient is emmetropic and he has +1 add just for reading. So what are you going to do for this patient?
Well,
you are asking who?
Basically, one thing, sorry,
Usama, yes,
can I comment about something really? Because 41, I don't believe 41 emmetropic, you need a +1 really. So it doesn't go together.
Exactly.
For I'm sure it's have something hyperopic. You need to be cycloplegic refraction for this one. If it's hyperopic, try to use a plus lenses, binocular, and try monovision in him and see how is it. Because I don't believe in someone in 41, he struggle with near, he need a +1 really.
Yeah.
Dr. Muhammad, just one thing that I agree fully with Dr. Mazen that the progression is one of the challenges in these cases, and in this age. Sorry. So if we don't have the technology that can go through adding and +1, definitely the patient might have +0.75 as a hyperopic in 41 or +0.5 in these cases. Yes, I do agree. So. If I don't have the technology for laser that can add +2 in a non-dominant eye and +1 in a dominant eye, then I will not do anything. Now, testing this patient for this kind of technology using a trifocal lens, putting a +1 add to what he has as a refraction, let us say, for example, +0.75 with add 1 in a dominant and +0.75 with add 2 in a non-dominant. If the patient accepted, then we can do it. The +2 in the non-dominant will keep the near vision active until age of 50 to 51 or 52. Patient should accept the fact that it is a progressive issue and we might be in need to do an enhancement surgery, as one of the important sessions that Professor Rohit Shetty, he did it in India. It was a very lovely, nice session. If he remember what he did through the different technology, we need to do an enhancement. Patient should agree that this enhancement might done after 7 years. So
what do you think?
Have this to start with, we cannot do anything, only glasses. If we have this technology that can do addition 1 in one eye and +2 in the non-dominant eye, that we can proceed. And I have a lot of cases, and I did it, and I'm doing it.
Okay, Dr. Rohit, can you comment about this one, please? Dr. Rohit, you have experience about.
See, I use 2 technologies for this. One is the Bausch & Lomb, the Supracore, and the Schwinn technologies. But
Frisbee Max.
Frisbee Max. But take-home point from this, which I want to bring very clear, is okay. The patient may be demanding, yes, but I've had many patients where when initially we used to do it on an emmetrope, and you don't really get what you want because there'll always be some line drop in for the distance vision. The patient may do see it, and the patient has to accept that there is going to be some issues with your distance vision. I think that message has to be clearly told with this case.
Yes, Rohit, if he accepts the trifocality, a contact lens user, a trial. That trial is crucial for this treatment. So if he accepted for the distance vision, then that's all.
But sir, what happens is, if you want to give him a trial, it has to be for the 3 to 4 months time, because there's always a thing about neuroadaptation. Sometimes the patient may accept it very quickly, sometimes they may not. If they don't accept, then you'll have to give for at least 3 to 4 months. That means this patient may not be the ideal one for a laser correction, but like you said, contact lens trial, you've given them enough time, you explain to them there could be loss of lines, because to be very frank, we don't have a technology today, Dr. Mohammed. This is what the message should be, that you can guarantee them that it will be 6x6 or 20x20 and J1 at the end of everything. So we have to be very clear. The challenge for laser vision correction is always going to be an emetro.
Okay, so I think I will agree about the comments of Dr. Mazen. He starts. So in this case, the best way is to keep the patient in the glass. In the best, I mean, this is the most important. If the patient insisting and he accept all the others, I mean that he will maybe there will be a loss of one line for distance, as all the other things that Dr. mentioned, then we can go for a laser correction. Is that correct? Yeah, Dr. Rayed.
Yes.
So Dr. Mazen, you agree on that? Because with me now, we have to tell our participants that we agree on certain point about the case, and you are okay. So now the second case, can we go? Yeah, Dr. Imad also, thank you. Can we go now to the second case? Dr. Mazen, if you want, yes, to control this one, just I will show you can read and okay, go ahead, Dr. Mazen.
Okay, so this patient is a 45-year-old. The distance visual acuity is 6.6, both eyes with -3 diopter sphere without cylinder. For the near vision, it is very good with G1. The anterior segment, no cataract. Okay, to get rid of eyeglasses. Yeah, very good question. What is the solution in this case?
Okay, let us now first ask our participants their opinion. Okay, we are having lens-based, we have laser-based, we have camera delay. I forget to do something. Okay, so remind me, Mr. John, whenever we finish, to have another to ask the participants about their opinion after our discussion. So let us go here. What is the best solution for this case? Okay, let us count for 10 seconds.
Now, for the sake of time, I'd like to ask every one of the panelists just one sentence. What do you do? You may say lens-based, you may say laser-based, you may say mini monovision, for example. Okay, so I'm going to start with Dr. Imad.
I would go for laser extended depth of focus, laser monovision.
Professor Rohit.
Sorry, there was some connection issues here.
Thank you, Doctor. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Rohit.
So Rohit, what do you do? Just one sentence.
I will do a I'll do a monovision laser.
Monovision laser without extended depth of focus or changing the asphericity of the cornea or any type of that?
No, at this point of time, just the monovision laser will do.
Okay. Professor Assaf?
Laser-based with the extended depth of focus by aspheric profile ablation in the non-dominant eye and mini monovision.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Samuel, what do you think?
I'm gonna answer laser as the others did, but I'm so worried about how good this person's near vision is that I would have to also entertain trifocal implants if they're really serious. If I'm following your question literally, where they want to get rid of their glasses, I believe that might be the only way of truly doing it. It's really easy to make a -3 unhappy with their near vision afterwards.
Okay, so you don't do, for example, mini monovision or monovision or extended depth of focus laser vision correction?
I do, but I'm taking your question literally about wanting to get rid of glasses, and I don't think that's capable of doing it as well as the trifocal implants. And so
what
I
you
would
will do?
Okay.
So what you will select here, Dr. Samuel? What is your solution for this?
I'm going to go with laser, but that implies that I've been able to convince this person not to be so greedy as expect the near vision that they have pre-operatively. That's the only way I can answer the question.
Okay, Safwan.
Now, Mazen, that patient should underwent the trial of the contact lens. Now, in my trial of the contact lens, those patients should understand well that they will lose one line, or the golden near vision J1, they will lose it. The target should be J3. So if they accept, I will go through a micro monovision plus extended depth of focus. That extended depth of focus will go through called micro extended, means that there is, for example, the eye with, because for example, he's in 45 and he's in need for a plus 1.5 in the dominant, or plus 1.25 in the dominant, and I will go to 2 or 2.25 in the non-dominant. So here, my idea, as Samuel said, that those patients, they have something called that they cannot lose the gold that they have in their hand is the near vision. So they don't need to lose it. So I will try with a multi-type of trifocal contact lens with them 1 day or 2 days or 1 week until they will reach a standard that they accepted. If they accepted, then I will go to the lens base, which is micro mono plus
laser based. You mean laser based?
Yes, laser based, for sure. Laser based. It is a laser.
Okay, great. Yeah, Arthur.
So Mazen, this is me 10 years ago. At the age of 49, I was -3 both eyes. I had laser vision, right eye 0, left eye -150. I'm 58 years old now. It's still the best thing ever since sliced bread. So I say laser vision, either monovision if you can accept it. If you can't accept monovision entirely, then go for some sort of blended vision with a asphericity in the reading eye.
Yeah.
Laser based.
Nice. That's what you said.
Yeah, Osama.
Yeah, definitely. It's just monovision, but he need to accept it like 1.5 monovision. If it's like low, like 0.75, he will not be happy very soon. So if accepted good level of monovision, like 1.5 or some, or 1.75, that's the way to go. But if he doesn't happy, I don't go for lens surgery at this age whatsoever. I will send it somewhere else. So I tell him at this age, I don't want to do lens surgery. It can be done, but I don't do it at 45%.
Okay, so the final question for all the panelists, that nobody agrees for lens-based in this situation, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Mazen, if you can have the questions.
Those patients.
Yes, Safwan, sorry.
Those patients, definitely, apart from Arthur, maybe Arthur, he has a good background, no knowledge, and he's a scientist, so he has, his brain is preoccupied, but those patients, they don't agree the monovision, so it's very easily. So that's what I learned from my experience. So when you are applying 1.75, for example, one eye, and -0.25 in one eye, they will not agree, they will not accept it. As you said, the tolerance level for them is very difficult to reach. That's why when we add the extended depth of focus by a laser, it will be much accepted, means that the accepted group will be larger than the monovision group.
Okay, thank you, Safwan. So, Dr. Muhammad.
Okay, can we have the question, repeat the question now for our participants, so to see if they are changing their mind? Anyway, it is
very good idea.
Yeah, okay. Okay, can you show the question again, St. John? Yes, again. So now let us go. So most of us, I don't know, let us vote again. Okay, we are having only 5 seconds, please. So we are, and I would ask Mazen, after your permission, if we can have a very short answer, because we are having still more cases and we want to finish in a time, for your sake and for our participants. Very short, please, as much. Okay, if we can get the result, Mr. John, for this case. Okay, so now, so the people, they are, yeah, so they understand, most of them. Before we are having 2% camera LA, no more. Still some people, they are believing in lens-based correction. If we are having anyone and he is having a raised hand, we can hear from them why they are still want to do a lens-based correction. Okay, so let's go, Dr. Mazen, to the next case, and please, this is the case for you. I will show you and you can go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Mazen.
43-year-old patient, visual acuity 6.6 with, he is hyperopic plus 2.5 without astigmatism.
Okay.
What about the near vision?
Near vision here, I think it was G Safwan, what we have got this.
G6.
What? 6, sorry,
J6.
yeah.
J6.
J6, yeah, J6,
J6,
yeah, what I'm saying.
okay.
J6. I forget just to write.
J8.
No addition, no addition.
Yeah,
I mean,
with plus 2.5.
the same. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So anterior segment.
No cataract.
No cataract. Okay. Here, patient wants to get rid also of the glass as usual. Our question: what to do? Okay.
So the question to the audience now.
I just remember the addition was 1.5, and the visual
to reach the J1.
J6.
And the cycloplegic refraction?
There is no cycle, because this is okay.
Let's assume, Osama, that this is after cycloplegic refraction.
Yeah,
let's assume
because that's very important for this age, really.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Okay, so what is the best solution in this case? Also, lens-based, laser-based, or camera LA? And just to remind you, there is no cataract in this case, and he is, let's say, hyperopic, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let us see what is the result, John.
Almost equal. Almost
yeah,
equal.
lens-based and laser-based correction almost equal, and we have camera LA 5%. So, Dr. Mazen, go ahead, and you can start now from Dr. Osama.
Yes, Dr. Osama, please. What do you do?
So basically, for this one, if his cycloplegic is very matching, I go for laser surgery, really. And maybe tiny monovision, not much.
Okay.
But depends on the patient what he wants, really. But I don't go for lens if it's, because usually with hyperopic, usually they have also better depth of focus for after treatment, so they can read better than the myopic patient.
Yeah, exactly. That's because of the steep cornea in the center, which gives some asphericity and depth of focus. Okay, but do you tell the patient that even the hyperopic treatment may regress in the future?
That's why the cycloplegic is very, very important. That's why I tell you early, the most important part. But usually, I don't see big regression, but it's maybe mild one. But you could enhance it, really. So it's not a big deal. But I think it's the multifocal, they have more disadvantage at his age.
Okay, do you do some overcorrection?
A mild one if I want to do. But depends on the cornea curvature also. What's the cornea curvature of this patient?
Let's assume that the curvature allows you. So do you do,
so I may go for 0.75. I do monovision, try lens, and then maybe 0.75 monovision.
Okay, great. Arthur?
So I agree with Osama, except if the patient doesn't like blended vision at all, and he definitely wants to be glasses free, then I would, for a hyperope, a young hyperope, I'd have no problem putting in a trifocal. My different story completely. But a young hyperope, these are the patients who are most satisfied with trifocals.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so lens-based, Arthur. Ahmed?
If he doesn't accept.
If he doesn't accept.
Well, this patient is situated in the gray zone between the lens-based and laser-based. My approach in this case, I would ask the patient if he wants or she wants a radical solution or just a temporary solution. if the patient accepts for just a temporary solution, as if we are turning the clock back for 10 years to transfer the patient from 43 to 33, let's say, I will go for the laser based with the micro monovision, because the ablation profile with the hyperopia improves the depth of focus and enables the patient to read at least at the intermediate distance. And of course, if we do some sort of myopia, targeting myopia of minus 0.75 in the dominant eye, non-dominant eye, this patient will be on the moon, will be very happy with the quality of vision and the spectacle independence. But if the patient wants radical solution, I would go for the trifocal lens, as Arthur mentioned. And keep in mind that we have a new technology. We have the fine vision of physiology, we have the panoptics of, we have quite exciting technology that provide excellent quality of vision and excellent functionality for these young subjects.
Safwan?
Well, I do agree, Dr. Mazen, with Dr. Ahmed that the challenge here is in the hyperopic issues, is that sometimes they are not accepting the temporary because they know that it's a progressing. And if the patient agreed with the temporary and we can enhance the treatment again, and he doesn't have he's not a diabetic, and the cycloplegic agreed with our treatment, because sometimes the challenge of the laser in these cases is that when the cycloplegic shows 4.5 and the author of shows 2.5 and he's not accepting the treatment over. So when you will treat them as a laser, 2-3 months, he will end up with another 2.5. So that's all if it's excluded, and the cycloplegic was fine with it, and the patient accept the monovision or trifocality with extended depth, then I will go according to the patient acceptance. If he need a temporary, then I will go with either monovision or micro monovision and extended depth. If not, then he need a radical treatment, then I will go with the trifocal, as Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Arthur said. We have an excited lenses now, and we can do it.
Okay, thank you. Samuel?
Can I have a comment also here? One sec.
Yeah,
But it's not a temporary solution, because his distance will be getting worse. So you need to understand this patient. If you don't do any surgery, his distance will be also worse. So it's not temporary solution even as a temporary. So it's a plastic solution for his distance.
For the near vision.
No, but yeah, but that's what I mean. Temporary to some limit, but he's much better than what he is if he didn't do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But they're concerned about the near vision more than the distance vision.
Okay,
but that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, for me, absolutely, I'm going to lean towards the lens-based solution with trifocals. I'm concerned about the longer healing of hyperopes with laser. I'm concerned about hitting the correct lens for them when they finally need cataract surgery down the road. And I have to say again, just like Arthur, I could not be more pleased with my monovision. I have to tell you, if someone offered me right now to change my vision by even 1%, I don't think I would accept it. That's how happy I am. And I only have about minus 75. So I surrender to using the +1s when I need them, and I just couldn't be not more happy. For me, the trick where we are now is just not to be too greedy with patients, where you try to give them all and end up with the lower satisfaction.
Great. Rohit?
I think, Dr. Mazen, the experiment of the contact lens, whether it's in monovision or in trifocality, and the good explanation for the patients, and then the cycloplegic action, especially for those hyperopic, is a mandatory for those patients, especially when they need to understand that what we are doing on a laser base, it's a temporary issues, and what we are doing on the lens base is a permanent for distance and near.
By the way, there is a special tolerance test that should be done for the blended vision or the press beyond. So in the clinic, without using the contact lenses, just by the phoropter or the spectacles, you can, or the trial frame, you can check the tolerance of the patient and how much difference he can tolerate.
Yeah.
So this is another point to point it out. So Rohit, yes, please.
I agree with most of the points discussed. The only I would at this point of time, being an hyperope and lens being clear, I would give him an option of laser-based as my first option. But I would decide not to do a laser-based if I feel that his curvature at the end of the procedure is going to be like a keratoconic one.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to mess up everything. Because if his curvature is 45, 46, or and if you end up in close to 48, 49, you'll end up with a terrible amount of spherical aberrations, and that would create a huge impact in his quality of vision. So ultimately, even if you give him 20 by 20 J1, it's all about how good the quality of vision is if he's driving. And that depends a lot on his pupil size, especially at this point of time. So my decision is based on what is going to be the post-op change in his curvature based on this pre-op case. And that is going to be a very important factor to decide to go for a laser blended vision or for the trifocal lenses.
Okay, great. Now, you highlighted a very good point. So what is the highest cutoff value of the K reading that you don't go beyond after hyperopia, post-op? I mean, it shouldn't be more than 48. It shouldn't be more than 49.
Hyperopic, we don't have 48 and 49. Usually they're
just Dr. Safwan, no. Pre-op, for example, 44, and we are going to treat the patient.
Yeah.
So what is the highest K reading, post-op K reading that you accept? Otherwise, you don't go for the operation. The post-op should be at most 48, 49. What do you do?
Optically, what I mean, this is purely anecdotal. What I've been told by people working on optical work is human beings, normal human beings, can tolerate up to close to around 50, 52 curvature changes. But nobody has really tested it. But 47 to 48 would be a very ideal way to cut off. That's one. But that also heavily depends on your pupil size. If your pupil size is very small and is got like a pinhole, then you are just going to virtually take care of, irrespective of your curvature, is going to take care of everything. So I think it depends a lot on your pupil also.
Now I come to this point, which is the last thing to say. The spherical aberration does not depend only on K readings. It depends as well on Q value. So there is an, let's say, inverse relationship with the K readings, okay? And there is a proportional relationship with the Q value. So sometimes a K reading of 48 does not produce the same spherical aberration as, for example, another 48 in another patient with different Q value. So it is based on subject to subject.
That's right, Dr. Mazen, and we need to differentiate between two things: that a positive spherical aberration that we are inducing when we are treating a myop, and a negative spherical aberration when we are treating a hyperop. So here, it's a totally different. So I need just to comment on Rahit that the issues is that when you are end up with those patients that they have a high hyperop.
Dr. Safwan, your internet is connected, so it's interrupted, so your voice is not clear.
Would you please repeat the question?
Sorry. No, it's not a question. It's a comment. Now you are hearing me?
Yeah. But it's still
now you are hearing me? Okay, I will change.
Dr. Safwan, I think we can keep this comment later on because your voice is still interrupted. So for sake of the time.
Is there anything? Is there now? You can hear me.
Going and coming. The problem is going and coming. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so I was talking about the positive spherical aberration that we are using it when we are inducing. Okay, done.
Your voice is cut. It's not clear. Interrupted. Okay. So one word we are hearing, the other one is not. Done. So let's keep for the next. Let us have the question again for our participants. So then we can go to the next case. what is the best solution in this case. So after this, what you will do. Okay.
A good way, Dr. Muhammad. Thank you. To see whether they changed their mind or not.
Okay, before we are having 50 and 43, let's say. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can show us the result now. So let us be very fast. So Dr. Mazen, if you allow me, please, also we need to be a little bit fast. We are still having 4 cases and we are having many questions. So now it is more
the same. Nobody changed the mind.
So, okay, but it is, it's acceptable because we are having, if you want now the final comment from you, Dr. Mazen. So the first,
yeah, I would go,
about
of course,
the result.
Personally, I would go for the laser-based with some mini monovision. And if the patient does not accept, then maybe trifocal is the best.
So this is, I think, the most of our buyers, they agree on this point, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay. So I'm going to go fast, and in each coming case, I'm going to ask only 3 panelists, not all panelists, okay? For the sake of time.
Okay, this one, it will be, okay, no problem. If everybody want to share, but we need a very, everyone not more than 10 seconds, 15 seconds, please. So let us go to the 4th case, please. This is, go ahead.
50 year, okay.
Okay.
Plano.
Yeah, okay.
Plus 2.5 for near.
These are 50, okay.
Okay, no cataract.
No cataract.
Okay. Question.
So what is the best solution? Can we have the answer, Mr. John? Can you show the questions, please? Okay. Okay, so within 5 seconds, please. Can you see the results fast, if you have it? Lens-based correction 53 is most. So laser-based 36 and 11 camera LA. So let's go and see what is the
Imad. Let's start with Imad.
Okay. What to do? So Imad?
I do believe that the cut point here is what we call the ocular scattered index. We need to be sure that there is no kind of opacity in that lens. If the lens is totally clear, then we can think of a lens of a laser-based micromonovision with aspheric correction. In case this patient has successfully passed the tolerance test and he is willing about the idea of compromise. So if the criteria fits exactly to the micromonovision laser-based, we will go for it. Otherwise, we can suggest early or what we call the clear lens extraction with multifocal IOL.
Okay, very nice. This is very short. Yeah, we need even shorter than that. Yeah.
Osama.
I think for the near vision, I think you need for lens space, but I don't like to do it. I'm referred to one of my colleagues.
Arthur.
I would go with laser, and if they're not happy, I would wait, because I don't like doing refractive lens exchange for someone who's 20/20 uncorrected.
Okay, Safwan. We cannot hear you, Safwan. We cannot hear you. You are muted.
Sorry for that. Now my voice is clear?
Yes.
The issues is that for the challenge for this patient is that the 6/6 plano. So I agree with Dr. Arthur. I will go through and I will wait for this patient, because this patient might lose 1 to 2 lines when we will do a lens base. So if he agreed that he will lose and he understand that he will lose, then I will go through. Otherwise, I will wait. I will not do laser base. So it's still my choice will be lens base, but I rather wait for a 6/6 to have any changes in the distance. Then I will do it.
So you will do nothing, Dr. Safwan?
Yes, I will wait.
So wait. Okay, Rohit.
Basically, I would look for in Pentacam the densitometry, the lens densitometry index, the PNS grading, which gives something which Dr. Mohammed mentioned about whether there is any dysfunctional lens issues out here. Then I'm mentally clear that it's not a clear lens, but we are trying to do something for the lens which is already getting dysfunctional lens changes. That's the first thing. And given an option, the laser base would be good. But if there is any changes on the lens, aberration wise, then I would definitely go for the lens based one.
Yeah, but can I have the question now, Dr. Mazen, if you allow me? The patient, he don't want to use the glass. So how you will wait? You will convince him to use the glass till times if the answer of Dr. Safwan or what?
Now, actually, let me comment on this. Now, I have a doubt about the plus 2.5 at this age. I am 50, and my ad is just plus 1.5, 125 is okay with me. So why plus 2.5?
No, but you are myope.
I'm 54, and I'm using 2.5, my dear. That's difference. That depends on your I don't know, but this is the issues. We don't have patients with 50 and using 1.5 unless he has a myopic element. So yes. Age of above 50 or 50, they used to have this kind of around plus 2.25 to plus 2.5.
No, I don't encounter such patients where 50 years, they are emmetrope and they use the plus 2.5. Most of my patients are okay with the plus 1.5, 1.75 maximum. So I don't know.
Okay, I don't want to mention something secret, but my wife, she is using plus 2.5 and she is now around, but I will not say what is the age. Okay, let's go for it.
I agree with Rohit, and I just want to say that as a poor man's test, I use the slit lamp to look at someone's lens because you can have, at 50 years old, this is the time where you see a whole range of lens clarities. There are some lenses that do permit 6/6 vision, but you can tell they're only a few years away from trouble. So not everyone has the same 6/6 lens at age 50. And I look very carefully with the slit lamp to tell with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we should ask the patient about the quality of vision. By the way, if the patient is happy with the quality of vision and just want to get rid of his reading or her reading glasses, this is an issue. Because if the patient is happy with the quality of vision, I won't touch, for example, I won't touch this patient. And I have an aberrometer, by the way, so I will put the patient in front of the aberrometer to see about an idea about the ocular spherical aberration and the coma and the internal aberrations, and try to analyze the quality of vision if the patient has some issues with the quality of vision. If the patient has some issues with the internal aberrations, maybe in this situation, I might go for the lens-based surgery in one eye. I will choose the non-dominant eye because it's quite difficult to hit the emmetropia in this patient. It's not very well guaranteed to hit emmetropia in this patient, even with the highest technology we have with the optical biometer. So I think the key factor here is as mentioned before, the ocular scatter index, if the available in your facility, or the pentacam PNS, or the idea about the aberrometer, about the internal aberrations of the patient, and the patient's subjective perception of quality of vision. If the patient is happy with the quality of vision, I prefer not to touch this patient.
Yeah.
Ahmed, if you allow me to ask you, Ahmed, if this patient, you find him is completely free, no cataract, no problem, no refractive error whatsoever, and he don't want to use a glass and he want to get rid of the glass, then what is your options? I mean, what is?
So I will consider this patient as a patient of unrealistic expectation, and this is one of the contraindications to touch this patient with the lens-based surgery.
So you will send them to whom, please? To Dr. Mazen or to Dr. Safwan?
To Dr. Safwan.
I think it's
no
very
one would touch this patient at all, because the issue is that, as Dr. Ahmed said, the non-realistic patient here, they need something, and their roof of expectation, we cannot reach it. And as far as that we cannot reach their expectation, we cannot do anything. And in the worst case scenario, the non-dominant eye, when we will touch it, he will compare, he will close and see that I'm not seeing well with the distance here, and I lost 1 or 2 lines, and this is the problem. That's why I prefer just to push the patient.
Okay, Usama, please.
Yeah, it's the same. Just I think it's the one message really, that not what the patient wants. If we cannot achieve it, that's a good result. We shouldn't touch him. Really, it's not because the patient wants no glasses means I have to do something for him.
Right.
And really, it should be very clear
Actually,
have a guy,
this case prepared for that reason, Osama. Yani we prepare this case.
As I told you earlier, I will refer to someone else.
Okay. Actually, our consent should be modified. Actually, we didn't do that. It should be none.
Can I add a comment? Can I add a comment, please, just for 10 seconds? I have received a message from Dr. Sami Rabia from Kuwait. He is watching us nowadays, and he's suggesting to put an IPCL. It's a spheric or the presbyopic version of the phakic IOL. So I would like to hear the comments of the panelists.
Why,
here.
Doctor? If you can join us
at age of 50.
Yeah, maybe at age of 50 or age of 45, for example, in the previous case, for example, that to provide a temporary solution for the presbyopia management of this patient until the cataract develops, and then we can do the lens extraction with the phakic IOL.
That lens will affect the distance vision, and we will return back to the same issues. That this case, this patient will be suffered from a drop of the distance vision at least 1 or 2 lines. And believe me, for those patients, what I'm doing is that I'm showing them by trifocal lens. The trifocal lens, plano with, for example, added 2.5 or added 3. Put it on their cornea and show them what they will see post-op. And they will be surprised, and they will return back convinced totally that they will not do anything.
Okay, can you hear Dr. Ahmed, if Dr. Sami, my dear friends, also, if he is willing, if he can join us also, live, if we can open the mic for him, if he wants, and to discuss this point, if you want. Dr. Sami, if you are hearing me, please, just there is an option to raise the hand, then the company will open for you the mic so you can discuss with us. So let us go now. We can have the question again, John. But unfortunately here, if you can add none, if there is possibility to add, okay.
Turn on for Sami Al-Rabia for the mic.
If he is there, he can, yes. Now we let us see the result, and if Dr. Sami is there, please open for him. Okay, can you see the result, please? But I think this one, if the question should be modified also to none, we didn't add this one. So still, we are having the lens-based correction more. Whatsoever, okay. And some of them, they are having laser-based.
So do you want to summarize this?
I have an idea. Nobody chose camera, so let's re-ask the question and choose camera. That will mean that you will not touch this patient. Let's ask one more time like that.
Okay, for Dr. Samuel, for you, can you repeat the question? And dear colleagues, you are hearing us. If you think it's nothing to be done, just select the camera inlay.
Camera, yes, good idea.
Good suggestion. Thank you, Dr. Samuel, for this suggestion. Now we are having Dr. Sami here with us. Dr. Sami, you can hear us, and you are now live. Can you start?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Very nice to hear you. And I am very glad that you are with us. Yani, I'm very happy that you are with us, Dr. Sami.
أول شيء السلام عليكم وكل عام وأنتم بخير.
السلام.
Presbyopic ICL, it's an excellent idea if the angle kappa is minimal, then the distance vision will never be affected. يعني it doesn't affect the distant vision, but you have to have all other criteria. AC depth more than 2.8. You have to have white to white around say 12. Okay, so many other ideas. Sometimes you don't find this possible, but the angle kappa is very essential. Also for the camera corneal inlay, I may say that I put around 70 camera inlay, and it is beautiful if you place it on the visual axis. Believe me, if it is only 0.2 decentered, the patient hates you. So you have to make an excellent centration on the visual axis, not the corneal center. And this is the clue for the camera inlay. Go deep, around 250, and put it. I stopped doing camera corneal inlay because really it takes long time putting it on the exact position. Thank you very much.
Dr. Sami, can you stay with us? Go ahead, Dr. Mazen.
Yeah, Dr. Sami, do you implant this? Barakallah feek, Dr. Sami. Do you implant this for a 50-year-old patient?
You mean IPCL?
Yes.
Yes, why not? 50. Sure, 50 is not, as long as he's not cataractus, still he's young. يعني I am 70, you are 52, you are
well, I'm 50. Thank you very much.
You are still young,
then.
but I am 70. I have still clear cornea, and if I have a good AC depth, I don't mind to have an IPCL presbyopic.
دكتور سامي السلام عليكم دكتور سامي.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
كيف أمورك يا الحبيب كيف صحتك؟ The issue is that when we are saying that the ICL is not affecting the distance vision, especially for the presbyopia, what I'm doing is that I'm applying the trifocal zero base and added 2.5 to 3. And I found that this patient will change his mind directly. So ICL, that's right, maybe the contact lens, trifocal contact lens doesn't show the exact issues for the ICL. In spite of that, the difference is minimal, but still contact lens, trifocal contact lens, showing the refraction of the patient and the ad for it centrally, it can be a good test for those patients. If they accept it, then go ahead. You don't need to add, you don't need to do an added ICL. You need to do a trifocal lens IOL. For me, I will do IOL if they accept the contact lens trifocality. If they are not accepting it, means that
I'm not going to touch a clear lens here.
About the distance vision, then I will not do it.
Okay, can we have the last comment from Dr. Sami? Yes, Dr. Sami.
Yes, I think camera inlay is a good one, especially if you put a lens with a camera inlay. This is another option, also you have it. But keep in mind, if you are working on the plane of the cornea, the angle kappa is essential. I kept saying that, very essential. You have to measure it. You have to go direct to the visual axis. But if you are going backward toward the cornea, toward the lens, and then this angle is not really important because the angle, this is the tip of the angle. They get closer to it. Okay?
Okay. Shukran, Dr. Okay, Dr. Mazen, you are mute. Can you please open your...
Okay, thank you everybody for the valuable comments. Let's go for the number five.
Okay, so after this one, if you want to comment, Dr. Mazen, about the result.
About the result, so let's say most of us agree that nothing to be done. Second, we may go for, let's say, laser-based, or if the patient doesn't accept losing some lines, then we can go for either camera or lens-based. Am I correct?
Do you have any comment about Dr. Sami? Any suggestions? Also,
actually, I don't implant the phakic IOLs, regardless of the brand name.
But
I don't implant after age of 45.
But he about is the talking camera? About a value point that this patient is a clear lens and he don't want to touch this lens. So instead of doing lens based, he can do
for the camera. Yeah, this is what the priority is: nothing to do, or lens based. Laser based, okay, or camera, let's say, or lens based. So the lens based is the last option.
Okay.
But personally, I don't do lens based in such cases. Of course not. I don't do anything for this patient.
Okay, thank you very much for all. Let's go and let us be more shorter on the time because still we are having about at least 15 questions there waiting for us. This is the fifth. We have still another 3 cases, so please as fast as we can. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Mazen.
Okay. So 55-year-old myopic astigmatism. Corneal higher order aberrations, good. 7.5 RMS, comma, wow.
Among
it should be like keratoconus then.
Comma among them about 0.5.
Comma among them is 0.5. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Cataract.
G3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What to do?
What to do?
There is no question here for the participants. For the sake of time, can we go for discussion, Dr. Mazen? Go ahead.
Let's say that the 7.5 RMS with the comma just 0.5, it means that the patient maybe had a previous corneal surgery. For example, myopic or hyperopic treatment. This is why the comma is 0.5 and the remaining is on account of for example, spherical aberration, a trefoil. Yeah, maybe.
If he has any previous surgery, the spherical abrasion will be clear, high. Here is the comma is high. It's not the spherical abrasion.
No, yes? The comma is 0.5.
Yes, my dear.
0.5 and the total RMS is 7.5.
Which means that the rest is trefoil and the spherical abrasion. So it's hard.
This is what I said.
Yeah, it's hardly to be post-surgical, especially for myopic treatment. It's hardly to be.
Yeah.
Usually, post-surgical myopic, the spherical abrasion will be higher. Will taking the whole root mean square total.
Okay, this is what I'm saying, Dr. Safwan. Look at the comma is 0.5. The total is 7.5. So 7 is not related to the comma.
Anyway, okay.
Okay, go ahead, Dr.
Okay, now the cataract, there is a cataract. So what do you think? 55-year-old. So I think lens-based is an option, but we have to figure out why there is an RMS, very high RMS because of the cornea. So let me start with Ahmed Assaf.
I have a high suspicion that this patient might have some sort of form-frost keratoconus. So I would do corneal topography first to start to analyze what's wrong with his cornea to get a very high coma and RMS. And if they prove that there is some inferior stiffening or some sort of cornea, the keratoconus, so I would implant lens, monofocal, just a monofocal lens.
Okay, Sami, Dr. Sami, please.
7.5, still high. Okay, so one of two. Either you go for something like customized PRK or PTK, something to reduce this RMS as much as you can, and then if you give him the surgery and you put the lens, he's going to be better. So this is one. Or you go for the small pupil technique, which is either to make a very small pupil, and that's what you will reduce this RMS after I mean at IOL. You make very small pupil, so you will reduce this RMS tremendously, or you put a camera inlay inside the lens, so IOL with a camera inlay.
Okay, thank you. Imad?
I would agree with what Dr. Ahmed Assaf said by analyzing the cornea first. And if I would go to the lens-based, I will choose a monofocal lens with monovision, with giving him -1 or 1.5 in one eye and the plano in the other eye. Of course, the non-dominant eye, I will target -1.25 and in the other eye, plano.
Okay. Okay, Safwan, please.
So the assessment, as all our colleagues say, that we need a corneal map assessment, and most of those patients having a corneal opacity in the center that creates such a high coma and as a result a high total high order abrasions with myopic astigmatism. So I agree if the patient agreed with a monofocal as a baseline lens base, I will go to as Dr. Sami said, I will go to do a laser customized ablation to get rid of this opacities if there is and this high order abrasions, and then I will go with the monovision, a monofocal lens monovision for this patient if he decide to go through a correction of a distance and near. Otherwise, I will put only monovision for a distance, and that's all, with the glasses for near.
Yeah, Rohit.
I personally feel that in this patient with the RMS of 7.5 and a coma of 0.5, my bet is it's a post-operative case, and because it has to be a very, very advanced flat cornea. The patient must have been a myope, the cornea is flat. I understand the coma is on the higher side, but RMS of 7.5 is very high. That's first thing.
Yeah.
And the second most important thing is, in this patient with such high RMS, I would, before we do anything, the most important test is the epithelial mapping. The reason is, with such, I assume that is a very flat cornea. The keratometry readings must be in 32, 33, because only if you have such flat corneas will have such high RMS without coma. And if it's a flatter cornea, then the whole management would differ, because even if you had to do a customized ablation to regularize it, epithelium here would be a very, very important devil. This is my take on this case.
Would you please repeat the last point about the epithelial mapping? It is very, very important.
The reason is that the cornea, in this case, the RMS is so high, but the coma is, it's not a decentered cornea. It's not a keratoconic eye.
Exactly.
Because keratoconus would have had a huge amount of coma there. It would be in, say, more than one, but here is around 0.5. I feel it's a small decentration with the very flat eye. And because it's flat, the epithelium must be regularized, trying to regularize it with a huge amount of change. So epithelial map is probably very, very important in this particular patient before we plan anything, including an IOS surgery.
What did you assume, Rohit?
One point, Dr. Mazen. This case is taken from a real case. I had it, and the patient having corneal opacity. I need to just to comment on Rohit. This patient having trachomatous corneal opacity, and he has this sign, but there is no any post-operative issues. There is no any operation, and for those that they have operation, you need to ask about spherical abrasion. His spherical abrasion is 0.25, less than 1.2. Sorry, 0.12. So it's nothing. So it's very hardly to see any post-operative with spherical abrasion of 0.12. Anyway, it might be but this is the case. This is the issues. It's a real case.
Doctor, very good. Thank you. Dr. Safwan, now the scar, of course, will cause the very high RMS. So you said coma is 0.5. The spherical aberration is 0.12. So the remaining is trefoil then.
Yeah, trefoil is coming. The trefoil is the problem, is because the opacity creates this trefoil. That's all.
Okay, now regarding the answer, I think all of us should have asked about the visual acuity of the patient.
Yeah.
What is the visual acuity, the corrected visual acuity of the patient?
That's the question that you need to ask. Because here is the issues that they're very simple. Why I answered and Sami answered the same issues is that this patient, the best corrected visual acuity is 0.3 or 0.4. That's what I remember. And if you will see the depth of the corneal opacity is only superficial depth. It's around let us say 20 micron, 25 micron. So when I corrected with the laser base, it was beautifully corrected in a way that the patient disappeared. He didn't do the cataract for 1.5 years. And then
you did PTK. Did you do PTK or PRK?
No. It's a trans PRK customized with a corneal wavefront guided,
including the refractive treatment.
Yeah,
the myopic astigmatism.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And because the cataract was around grade 3, in spite of that, but the patient disappeared from my side around 1 year, 1.5 years. Then he returned back when the vision started to be deteriorated from the cataract. So it means that the treatment of the cornea was so efficient in a way that he ran away from that.
Okay, Dr. Mazen, if we can please shorten this one because we are running behind the time.
Okay, great. Of course, we have to know whenever we see such case, we have to know the source of this high RMS. So we have to check the transparency of the cornea. Yes. And we have to check the topography. We have to know the best corrected visual acuity, and based on that, we can plan. Yeah. So let's move to the next one, please.
Okay, so next one. Okay. let us go for case 6. And this one, if you allow me, Dr. Mazen, if you can go very fast, we will ask only 3 of the speakers. Those they didn't participate, Dr. Osama and Dr. Arthur in this case. And
Dr. Arthur left, Dr. Samuel left.
Dr. Samuel, okay. So because we are running behind the time. So patient is underwent presbyopia correction by implanted camera inlay. So patient came unhappy. So what to do?
Okay, what about the visual acuity? What about?
He's not happy in the visual acuity. Let's say it's for the
Is the camera decentered?
Yeah, this is the aim of this one is to know that if this one is camera inlay, because it's most of the time is not in center. That's why we are looking to remove this.
Okay, we have to know why the patient is unhappy. Is it because he developed
the
cataract?
patient? He don't know. For example, if we are,
I know. I know. After we check the patient, we have to know the source of this unhappiness. Is it because he developed cataract? And
no,
the camera
he's not cataract. He's not in a cataract. No,
no cataract.
No cataract. No.
No refractive error.
No refractive error.
Okay, so the camera.
He was corrected for near vision as a presbyopic, and he don't have any other problem in his eye.
So most probably the camera is decentered.
Okay, because we want, in this case, we want to highlight this the most, as Dr. Sami and Dr. Safwan mentioned. The most important things is centration of the camera inlay to have a good result. Otherwise, then we will have other problems. This is the aim of this case. If there is any comment from
Dr. Muhammad, just ask Dr. Sami for this question. Let him answer it because he implants 70 camera, so he
Dr.
might.
Sami is with us. Yes, still with us, Dr. Sami.
Yes, I am.
Dr. Sami, please, if you don't mind, that we have a patient with camera inlay, and this patient, he started to be unhappy, and when we are assess everything in this patient, we found that this inlay is decentered. So what's your management?
واحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. He started to be unhappy. يعني هو كان happy الأول. If he was happy الأول يعني if he was happy
after immediately
ما أيوة unhappy أول إذا decentered. هو في 2 points you have to go for it. You have to go very deep, 250 or deeper. هذه أول شيء. ثاني شيء you have to be centered. Now it is really very difficult to centralize it. I made a technique. I published that technique. And you will go for PTK. والBTK تخليه على السنتر على الفيجوال اكسس. BTK 3.8 بالdepth of only 10 or 15 microns. This BTK will make a mark on the cornea, and this mark is the only thing that you can go inside and push your inlay to go exactly at the mark. Once you put your inlay inside the mark, the patient will be very happy. I had maybe 4 or no more, maybe 10 patients I had to reshift it. And if you look at them before on the topography, they look excellent. But once I push them, they become better. And if they are slightly decentered, nasally or inferiorly, around 0.1 milli, there is no harm. But never ever make it decentered nasally or superiorly. Okay? So recenter the camera. It is dead easy. I'll tell you the technique if you need. After you open it, you put some distilled water. So this will distill. You will make this section easier. And then there is a Rabia spatula, which is just a spatula to use to move the camera inlay. You put it inside, and then hang it on top of it. You push it either forward, inside, centrally, backward, or upward, according to the mark which you made it on the corneal surface, not on anything else. Don't rely on the patient red reflex. Pay on the mark you made it by your PTK. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sami, for clarification. Okay, let's go to the last case. So we want to finish as soon as possible. Patient underwent a presbyopic correction by laser-based correction. Age is 47. and his patient came now with age of 59, having cataract G3. Okay, what to do? And he want to get rid of presbyopic glass.
Okay, so we have laser-based previously, but we want to know what was the laser-based, which type of laser-based? Was it mini monovision or was it the asphericity of the cornea?
Dr. Safwan?
So I think that he's an extended depth of focus and micro monovision. So micro monovision, that's in a predominant eye, it's minus 0.25, and non-dominant eye is minus 0.75, and he has a micro addition. Micro mono addition means that it's an dominant eye around plus 1.5, and in a non-dominant eye it was 2 plus 2 as an addition.
Okay,
now,
so there it is like
around 10 years, more than 10 years, he came back with a cataract grade 3. So what's the concept of our treatment in those? Because now I have around, let us say, 20, 25 patients. They are coming together with a deterioration of vision. Most of them, they have cataract.
What is the spherical aberration of the cornea?
The spherical aberration of the cornea that we start with, usually our laser machine, it's maintain the sphericity within the normal sphericity, which is from plus minus 0.25. Now, in this case, we have a minus spherical aberration centrally, which is the ad, and positive spherical aberration around, let us say, for example, 0.3 or 0.3.5, something like that. What I remember, because it's these figures is very difficult to remember it.
So it is multifocal cornea, let's say.
Yeah, it is multifocal cornea created by a negative spherical aberration.
Okay.
So the solution in.
Ahmed
Dr.
Assaf,
Mazen, please can we hurry in this?
Ahmed Assaf, let's hear his.
Dr. Ahmed, please.
Okay, this is a very tricky patient because I would like to have an idea about the cornea of this patient. So I would put in front of the topography or the pentacam to see what kind of laser ablation he had before, if it's a hyperopic ablation or the myopic ablation, because you know that hyperopic ablation, it's tricky for the centration. So this, if the patient had previous hyperopic ablation before putting a trifocal or sometimes even the extended depth of focus, put the patient in high risk of dissatisfaction because of the induced coma or the decentration of the cornea or the laser profile in the past. Myopic probably the myopic ablation, it's more or less forgiving. So I would like to have an idea about the optical zone of the ablation and what about the coma of this patient, the corneal coma and spherical aberration before starting to make the decision. Most probably these patients are very eligible for extended depth of focus and sometimes even for the trifocal lenses with the new version of the trifocal lens, as long as the, for example, the myopic ablation does not deteriorate the shape of the cornea and the optic zone is beyond the 6 millimeter optic zone and the cornea profile or the shape of profile is aspheric, because we have now aspheric ablation profile. It's not like the oblate cornea, the spherical ablation profile when producing oblate cornea in the past. So we should have more data on this patient before making a decision to implant a premium lens or just a monofocal lens to treat his cataract.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. If there is any other opinion rather than Dr. Ahmed, what he mentioned, if any, Dr. Usama or Dr. Imad?
Or Rohit. Rohit, I think he left.
Dr. Rohit, yeah, he left.
Rohit, he left, I think.
Okay, Dr. Imad, Dr. Usama?
Dr. Muhammad, in this case, as there is a multifocal ablation already there on the cornea, I do agree that we need to carefully study this cornea, particularly the spherical aberration. For me, if this spherical aberration was within the normal, what we call the therapeutic range, which is between or less than -0.6, and that patient's ablation profile is well centered, and he was happy previously with his vision with his normal lens, which is usually simulating a monofocal lens, I would go to monofocal lens in this case. And in case there is a decision to go for extended depth of focus, I would warn the patient that there might be some area of adaptation in the beginning, because in these cases, we would have two levels of multifocality in these eyes. So
okay,
my preferred choice will be to go to monofocal lens.
Dr. Osama, you have any other suggestions?
Not to comment, no, it's the same. I think depends on the corneal, how much the corneal regularity, is he had monovision before, accepted or not. Maybe EDOF, maybe if it's not very high regularity in the cornea as an option.
Okay, Dr. Mazen, if you have any closing for this case, then we have to finalize because we are already more than 1 hour more behind the times.
Okay, now actually, if the corneal aberrations are high, then we have to avoid the diffractive. This is what I learned today from the colleagues. We have to avoid the diffractive types of premium lenses. Otherwise, we can go for that.
Any comment from Dr. Safwan, because he looks that he's dealing with these cases?
Yes, not all cases, only, okay. Can we hear on the last case, Dr. Safwan? Only the last case comment?
Yeah, you are hearing me now well?
Yes.
Okay, so the issues is that when we didn't have first the non-diffractive EDOF, our option was the monovision spheric, not aspheric. Because aspheric monovision, it cut part of the negative spherical abrasion that we create potentially.
Yes.
So we were doing it, and by the way, the biometry will not affected by the negative spherical abrasion that it's created by the machine. So we are easily doing the biometry for those patients. Now, when EDOF, a non-diffractive EDOF started, then here we have a new option, as Dr. Imad Alilo said, that we have a new option if the cornea shows centrally located negative spherical abrasion, and the total spherical abrasion, a positive spherical abrasion, was within the range normal plus minus 0.4, that my range. Then I can go through and I can do the non-diffractive EDOF in those patients. Otherwise, monovision spheric for those patients that can maintain the near vision as it's planned before. Yes, they can, and they might lose one line of near vision, but not distance. And this one line of near vision, it was in my mind that I was doing it, or in my practice, I was doing it in adjusting the monovision, not micro monovision. The monovision means that it was minus 0.5, minus 0.75 in non-dominant eye. I will make it minus 1 or minus 1.25, and the minus 0.25, it will be around adjusted according to the demand of the patient for the distance or near. Okay, that was my plan. But when EDOF started, it's a new era. Now we are.
Can you fast, and Dr. Safwan, can you give the very fast comment about last point? Yeah.
That's EDOF. Now it started because now we are running a study there, and we are seeing which one of them.
So EDOF is the solution now. It can give a solution.
Promising. It's a promising technology.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Safwan. I have so many questions. I select this one from Dr. Nancy Al-Raqaj. Can you please differentiate between EDOF like Symphony or monofocal EDOF like the Isobure, or do you see this from the SAM IOL in borderline cases? Anyone have an idea about different type of
the issues is that here it's as I said, it's a new technology, and there is a lot of variation between the companies that they are producing these lenses. I don't know whether Professor Ahmed Assaf, he has some comment on different between Symphony, Ahmed, Symphony and the Bausch & Lomb.
Monofocal, and you see this.
Sorry. Yeah, from physical and monofocal.
The question is there. Can you please go ahead, Dr. Ahmed?
Yes, I've planted some eyes with the Symphony lens, and I'm not very happy with these lenses, even in the Virgin eyes. So I stopped implanting Symphony lens. So as long as it's a diffractive monofocal or extended depth of focus lens, it's not succeed in my hands. I'm not sure about your opinion, but I think I'm very excited about the new extended depth of focus because it's based on the refractive optics, not the diffractive optics, like the iHands and IsoPure lenses of Fine Vision or the J&J. So most probably this lens will have a market share, bigger market share in the near future, but still they are not registered in my area. I don't have too much experience with these lenses, clinical experience, or just theoretical experience. So I believe that the optics now is shifting toward the refractive optics for the extended depth of focus lenses rather than the diffractive optics.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you, Dr. Safwan. Please, we are already behind the time. I will ask, please, Dr. Safwan and Dr. Mazen, if you can go through the questions and answer personally, just because we have a lot and we cannot, we are apologize from their participant for to answer this question because we are running behind the time. So
I think that Mazen, he left.
No, he's there. Dr. Mazen is here.
Mazen
is there. Yeah. So Dr. Mazen and Dr. Safwan, if
because
you allow me, you can go to the question and answer, give your answer directly to them, answer them.
So let Mazen start it. Let's Mazen start, please.
Actually, I have to leave.
I'm not asking a question to answer here. You will answer by typing. We are going to close now.
Yeah.
Okay, done.
So they will receive only their answer by there, not by listening to the question and raise. They are having only one raise hand. Still, Dr. Raed is the last question. Dr. Raed is there. Yeah, if he is there, otherwise we'll close. I would like, first of all, to thank you very much. This topic, I don't think that it will take that time, but it take longer, more than 1.5 hours, more than anticipating time. Thank you for all. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for sharing your experience with us. It was a pleasure to be with us. Dr. Wahid, Dr. also Arthur, and our colleagues also, Dr. Mazen, Dr. Imad, Dr. Osama, and Dr. Safwan. And special thanks also to Novartis for sponsoring this meeting. And we are having this Dr. Raed. Yes, Dr. Raed, can you go ahead and ask your question? Dr. Raed, we are listening to you. If you are there, please. Dr. Raed. So I think by this we will close. Thank you very much. We hope to see you inshallah soon. So please, before we close, we just go and answer Dr. Mazen and Dr. Ahmed, Dr. Safwan, if you allow me, go to the question and write your comment. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And good night. See you inshallah in the future.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Safwan, Mazen, don't go, please. Where are you, Mazen? How you will answer the question?
Dr. Muhammad.